You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the fourth part of What If Naruto Enters K-Pop Demon Hunters. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Slygold on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. The next 6 months blurred into a rhythm of training, missions, and growth. Naruto had learned to temper the hurricane inside him. The wild storm he'd once unleashed without control became something steadier, lightning and wind woven together, sharp and exact. He no longer burned himself out every time he resonated with his soul energy. Instead, he could summon it in bursts, controlled storms that turned him into a weapon few demons could stand against. Sasuke honed his eyes. No longer was he simply fast and precise, now he could read the fight itself. Every strike, every feint, every shift in weight telegraphed itself to him, and he responded with ruthless precision. He became a counterfighter of terrifying potential, slipping through enemy lines like a blade of inevitability. Sakura blossomed most of all. Under Kakashi's careful guidance, her willow stance became something unshakable. Where once she was rigid and bookish, now her movements flowed like branches in the wind, yielding just enough to redirect, striking back with quiet force. Off the battlefield, she threw herself into alchemy and craft, perfecting poisons that worked on both humans and demons alike. Her vials, tucked neatly at her peach, turned every mission into a chess match she was prepared to win. Together, they were no longer three children fumbling to keep up. They were a formation. Naruto the battering ram, unstoppable momentum, breaking through lines with the fury of the storm. Sasuke the crossbow, deadly from the flanks, a weapon of precision who punished every mistake. Sakura the cutlass, balanced, versatile, cutting in where they left openings, binding it all together. Under Kakashi's watchful eye, they moved as one. They weren't handed another A-class assignment, those were rare, and too dangerous to risk twice, but the steady rhythm of C-rank missions hardened them. Small exterminations, demon nests in villages, rogue spirits haunting trade roads, missions that built trust, stamina, and skill. Each time they returned with cleaner kills, quicker teamwork, fewer injuries. And every time, Kakashi felt his chest swell with quiet pride. He never told them, but he watched them from the shadows of the battlefield, memorizing the way they moved, Naruto's storm crashing forward, Sasuke's eyes cutting through deception, Sakura's stance anchoring them all. 6 months ago, they had been recruits, barely scraping through their first trial. Now, under his tutelage, they were hunters. And though he rarely showed it, Kakashi could not have been more proud. The sun was dipping low, painting the training grounds in streaks of gold. Sweat clung to their clothes, their breaths came heavy, but the formation was flawless. Naruto had driven through the final dummy with a storm-charged strike, Sasuke cut down the flank with surgical precision, and Sakura finished the drill with a fluid willow stance counter that left nothing standing. For a long moment, Kakashi just watched them. Three shadows against the fading light, no longer rookies, no longer children fumbling for footing. Hunters. His hunters. "All right," he said finally, voice carrying that calm steadiness they had grown to lean on. "That's enough for today." They expected a critique, a lecture on the one or two things they could have done sharper. Instead, Kakashi stepped closer, pulled down his mask just enough to let them see the faintest of smiles, and spoke plainly. "The Chunin exams are in 1 week. And I'm going to recommend you 3. The words hung in the air. Naruto blinked first, his storm-colored eyes widening. "Wait, you mean us?" Sasuke's lips curved in the faintest smirk, pride flickering across his usually calm face. Sakura froze, her heart hammering, the weight of the announcement sinking in. Kakashi's gaze moved over each of them in turn. You're ready. You've trained hard, you've bled together, you've survived what others couldn't. I wouldn't send you in if I didn't believe in you. For once, even Naruto was quiet, the gravity of Kakashi's words settling in. 6 months of sweat, scars, and relentless drills had led to this moment. Kakashi straightened, his lone visible eye gleaming with something warmer than pride-faith. This is the next step. The exams will test everything: your strength, your unity, your will. But you've already proven to me that you're more than capable. Sakura inhaled slowly, her hands tightening into fists. Sasuke's smirk sharpened into determination. Naruto's grin finally broke through, wild and fierce. Then let's show them what Team 7 can do, he said, voice crackling with the same energy as his storms. Kakashi nodded once, satisfied. That's the spirit. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. But in this moment, under the setting sun, they believed because Kakashi believed. The council chamber was thick with smoke and expectation. Lantern light flickered against the polished wood table where Hiruzen Sarutobi sat, pipe in hand, his ancient gaze fixed on the line of jonin before him. Your recommendations, he said simply. Kakashi stepped forward first. His voice was calm, even, but carried the certainty of a man who had already made his choice. Team 7. Uzumaki Naruto. Uchiha Sasuke. Haruno Sakura. They're ready. Hiruzen's eyes lingered on him, unreadable, before moving on. Guy slapped his chest with a booming laugh, his teeth gleaming. And Team Guy. Their flames of youth burn brighter than ever. They will enter the exams and shine. Kurenai inclined her head, her tone soft but firm. Team 8 as well. Kiba, Hinata, Shino, they've grown into their strengths. They are prepared. Asuma followed, casual but confident, smoke curling from the cigarette between his fingers. Team 10 is ready. Shikamaru, Ino, Choji, they'll prove themselves. One by one, the instructors presented their rookies. By the time the last name was spoken, every rookie squad had been nominated. A murmur rippled through the chamber. All rookies. In the same year, one counselor whispered. Irika, standing in the corner, finally stepped forward. His voice was sharp, cutting across the noise. Hokage-sama, this is perplexing. These children have only been hunters for half a year. Barely out of training. To send them all into the Chunin exams, his jaw tightened. It's reckless. Several instructors stiffened. Asuma's gaze narrowed, his voice edged with steel. With respect, Irika, you underestimate them. My team is ready. Shikamaru may be lazy, but his mind is sharper than most veterans I've met. Ino's clan's skills are precise, and Choji's strength is undeniable. They can handle it. Kurenai's tone was quieter but no less resolute. And so can mine. Kiba's instincts, Shino's DSPLN, Hinata's growth, they've faced everything I've given them and succeeded. They're prepared for the exams. Irika shook his head. Potential is not readiness. You've both seen what the exams are. They aren't tests, they're survival. If you send them now, unprepared, they'll die. The chamber stirred uneasily, but Kakashi finally raised his voice, cutting the debate cold. You still believe they're toys, don't you, Asuma? Weapons to test and sharpen. And if they break, throw them away. Asuma's jaw clenched. That's not what I said. Kakashi's single visible eye hardened. But it's what you meant. If they die because they weren't ready, that BLD will be on you. For a moment, silence reigned, the weight of Kakashi's words pressing down. Asuma stood firm, his voice unwavering. Every hunter faces death. My students know that. I stand by them. Irika looked between them, his hands trembling. You speak of conviction, but I see teachers gambling with children's lives. Is that what being a sensei is now? The air was suffocating, the tension sharp enough to cut. Then Hiruzen raised his hand, and the chamber stilled. His eyes, ancient and sorrowful, swept across every face. "Irika is not wrong," the Hokage said at last. "This decision is unprecedented. Reckless, even. But war does not wait for readiness. Demons do not pause for children to grow. Every sensei here has sworn their students are ready. If that faith is true, they will survive. If it is not," his voice dropped, final, heavy. "Then their deaths will weigh on us all." Irika bowed his head, the fight draining from his shoulders. Kakashi's silence was heavy, his eyes soft with quiet sorrow. Kurenai's hands folded tighter, Asuma's jaw set hard. Guy stood tall, unshaken, though even his fire dimmed under the Hokage's words. Hiruzen leaned back, pipe smoke curling upward into the lantern light. "The decision is made. All rookie teams will be entered into the exams." The words echoed in the chamber like a tolling bell. And though none spoke it aloud, every instructor knew whatever happened in those exams, the world would not see these children as rookies again. They all moved like a wound tightening into shape, separate threads pulled taut and braided together by the same unseen hand, the exams. The training yards hummed with the sound of feet, the sharp ring of wooden blades hitting dummies, the low grunts of bodies pushed past comfort. Everywhere you looked, rookies stretched, sparred, patched bruises, and readied gear with a focus that was almost holy. The air tasted metallic with sweat and something harder, fear dressed up as determination. From the corner where Team 7 worked, every perspective cut a different line through that same knot of tension. Naruto. He woke before dawn, the sky still the gray of old paper. His hands went to the scarred hilt at his side out of habit, then came away to flex his fingers into warm-ups. There was a calmness to him now that sometimes surprised even himself, a tempered current under the usual blaze. He pictured Rumi's smile and the way she tucked a stray braid behind her ear, the memory steadied him like an anchor. When he moved his storm now it was measured, wind braided with intent, electricity that struck and then held. He thought of the clawed hand that carved the whisker scars, of the way the demon's magic had burned and branded him. He tasted the same metallic edge of rage he'd felt on the bridge, but this time he folded it into a promise: he would find that demon, he would finish what was started, and he would not let the darkness swallow what Rumi meant to him. The vow wasn't loud. It was a thin, bright line through his chest, steady. Sasuke. Sasuke's mornings belonged to DSPLN. He moved like a blade, finding its groove economical, precise, everything about him narrowed toward the end of a single purpose. The Sharingan watched and learned, catching the tiniest tells in a sparring partner's footfall, the subtlest tension in a shoulder. In the quiet places between drills his mind returned every time to the same impossible image, his brother standing in a hall of BLD. The memory was a brand, the anger fed the clarity. His promise was cool and absolute. It had nothing to do with glory. It had to do with balance, with settling a debt of BLD, and, he told himself in a voice like a blade sliding into sheath. End the disgrace. End the echo. It didn't soften him, it sharpened him. Sakura. Sakura's hands were steady in ways that surprised even her. Under Kakashi's guidance she had learned to move like the willow. She practiced bend where force hit, spring when the moment demanded. But beneath technique lay an ember that flared whenever she closed her eyes, a flash of a child devoured, a face she'd seen in nightmares and in the eyes of people they'd failed to save. The memory fist clenched inside her like a warning. Her vow was protective and terrible in its simplicity: never again. She would be the shield in the middle of the storm, the cutlass that carved openings, and the vial that would turn a monster's advantage into its ruin. She practiced poisons and stitches, curses and salves, anything that would keep a living heart beating. The others. Across the grounds, other rookies prepared in their own languages of motion. Team 8's instincts and sniff tests, Team 10's quiet, lethal coordination, Team Guy's explosive, youthful drills that cracked the air like fireworks. Each team carried private resolve, some hopeful, some brittle with fear. In the mess hall's hushed conversations circled the same truth: they were young, and they were being sent into a trial that would not forgive mistakes. That thought made fingers tighten around hilts a little harder. Kakashi watched them all with the weight of the Hokage's mandate sitting square on his shoulders. He was the steady hand who would not let them drift, training the storm into a tool, the eye into discipline, the cutlass into protection. Still, at night, he replayed their first battle and the way they'd returned, and the old ache of responsibility gnawed at him. He knew how thin the line between control and surrender could be. Even as the town around the training grounds prepared, vendors stacking, exam boards being nailed into place, challengers boasting and sharpening, Team 7's private pledges hardened into plans. They ran drills until their muscles remembered one another's beats. They bled into the same rhythm: Naruto the forward surge, Sasuke the killing precision at an angle, Sakura the center that bound them and held what needed safeguarding. Late one night, after everyone else had gone to sleep, the three of them sat on the edge of the training field. Breath steamed in the cold air. No speeches were needed, the silence between them carried the shape of what they'd promised. Naruto's fingers brushed Sasuke's for a heartbeat, an unspoken pact. Sakura set a hand on Naruto's shoulder and then on Sasuke's, the three-point anchor of the team. "We go in together," Naruto said, voice small but fierce. "We come out together." Sasuke's jaw was a hard line. "We end what must be ended." Sakura's fist clenched once, as if sealing the promise. "We protect those who can't protect themselves." They rose and trained again until the stars bled into dawn. Around them the village slept uneasily, the sound of a world waiting for children to face a crucible meant for grown hunters. No one pretended the exams would be easy. No one pretended the stakes were anything less than life and death. But in the way their shadows leaned toward one another in the lantern light, there was a quiet certainty: they were no longer just rookies. They were three threads braided into something stronger, and whatever the world threw at them next, they would meet it as one. The morning of the first test dawned gray and cold, the streets thick with tension. By the time Team 7 reached the exam building, the air practically vibrated with it: hundreds of footsteps, blades clinking against scabbards, whispers carried like the wind before a storm. Naruto pushed the door open, and they stepped into the wide hall where the other genin waited. The room was already packed, bodies pressed wall to wall, squads from every corner of the known world. Headbands gleamed, unfamiliar weapons caught the light, and the low hum of murmurs stopped the moment they entered. Eyes turned. Predators sniffing at prey. Veterans weighing rookies. Some leaned against walls with easy grins, others muttered and laughed, sharpening the edges of intimidation like a blade. Several older candidates moved forward, cutting across the room, trying to loom, sneers curling on their faces. It was the oldest game in the book: scare the rookies before the fight even began. But then they felt it. Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, they didn't carry themselves like wide-eyed recruits. Their steps were steady, unflinching. Their eyes were level, not darting. They walked with the controlled stillness of soldiers who had already bled, already faced demons, already buried the weight of battle in their bones. The room's bravado faltered. What they saw wasn't rookies. They saw a storm barely leashed in Naruto's shoulders, the sharp, cutting precision radiating off Sasuke, and Sakura's quiet, unyielding steadiness at their center. Their aura rolled off them in waves, more than confidence, more than discipline. It was the gravity of those who had survived things others here had only imagined. The would-be intimidators stepped back without realizing it, eyes narrowing, mutters shifting from mocking to wary. Team 7 didn't so much as glance at them. They walked straight through the throng, found a place against the wall, and sat like they belonged there. And in that silence, broken only by the sound of other squads whispering among themselves, one truth spread quickly across the hall. These three weren't rookies. They were already soldiers. The exam hall was packed, a storm of voices and sharpened stares from every village under the sun. When Team 7 walked in, the noise faltered. Predators shifted, would-be intimidators leaned forward, but none pressed too close. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura carried themselves with the weight of soldiers, not rookies. Their silence bent the room around them, their aura heavy enough to still the swagger of older genin. That silence shattered when the doors banged open again. Team 10 strode in loudly, Asuma's students making no effort to hide themselves. Shikamaru yawned, muttering about how troublesome this all was, while Ino snapped at anyone who dared stare too long. Choji crunched noisily through a bag of chips, the sound echoing in the hush. Their volume alone stirred the hall, a sharp contrast to Team 7's gravity. Moments later, Team 8 arrived. Kiba's voice carried instantly, cocky and brash. "What's with all the staring? Haven't you people seen hunters before?" Hinata trailed with quiet eyes scanning everything, while Shino said nothing, simply observing with unnerving calm. The noise rolled over the hall until Kiba broke from his team, grin wide as he cut through the crowd toward Team 7. "Oi, Naruto." His voice was easy, familiar. "Didn't think I'd see you here looking like some scary storm god or something." Naruto's grin cracked through the silence, warm and real. He clasped Kiba's forearm, firm and steady. "Kiba. Guess we're in this together." That single gesture shifted the air. Sasuke gave a slight nod, acknowledging the other heirs. Sakura's tension eased when she caught sight of Hinata and Ino close behind, Shikamaru and Choji lingering with their own quiet weight. One by one, the heirs of Konoha's great clans clustered together not out of fear, but instinct, as if the old bloodlines recognized one another in a sea of strangers. Around the hall, whispers spread. "The heirs," someone muttered, and the word rippled like a warning. Foreign genin exchanged looks, some scoffing, others wary. But no one moved closer. Not now. Together, the rookies from the Leaf stood at the center of the storm. Not rookies, not children. Soldiers. Heirs of Konoha. And when the heavy door creaked open again, all eyes turned as the proctor stepped in, boots ringing against the stone floor. The buzz died instantly, replaced by the anticipation of the first test. The exams had begun. The door groaned open, and in stepped a man built like iron given flesh. His head was shaved, his coat long and black, scars cutting across his scalp like claw marks left by something that hadn't finished the job. His presence alone seemed to press the air thinner. "Ibiki Marino," someone whispered, and the name slithered through the hall. Interrogator. Torturer. A man who broke demons and men alike with nothing but patience and cruelty. He stopped at the front of the room, his gaze sweeping over them like knives dragged across stone. "You're all too loud," he said flatly, voice like gravel ground beneath boots. "That will change." The silence was immediate. Ibiki let it hang for a long, suffocating moment before continuing. "This is the first test. Each of you will receive a code." He gestured, and masked examiners moved down the rows, handing each team a slip sealed in wax. "The code is your lifeline. You will guard it as you would your own heart. Lose it, and your team fails." He paused, his lip curling in something too cold to be a smile. "And you won't lose it because it falls to the floor. You'll lose it because someone makes you watch them carve it out of your teammate's skin. Or because the sound of their screaming makes you crack." The air grew colder. Some recruits swallowed hard, others clenched their fists tight against their thighs. Ibiki leaned forward, his scarred head catching the light, his voice dropping low enough that it forced everyone to strain and listen. "This test isn't about answers. It's about what you'll do when everything you are is bent against breaking. When it's your teammate strapped to a chair, BLD running, begging you to give in." He straightened again, his voice suddenly booming. "Will you crack? Or will you hold the line?" The examiners passed out slips, the wax-sealed codes hitting each desk like death warrants. Ibiki's gaze swept over the crowd one last time, lingering briefly on Naruto's storm-colored eyes, Sasuke's scarlet glare, Sakura's steady hands. "Welcome to the first test of the Chunin exams," he said, voice final. "Try not to disappoint me." The exam hall fell silent when Ibiki stepped forward, scarred head gleaming under the lantern light. His gaze swept the rows of genin, pausing on no one in particular yet making every squad feel as though his eyes had found them. "This is the first test of the Chunin exams," he said, voice like gravel dragged across steel. "And you will learn quickly that it has nothing to do with paper, or numbers, or clever tricks." He raised a gloved hand, and proctors moved through the hall, placing a wax-sealed slip of parchment on each table. "This is your code. Each squad has one. Protect it like your own heartbeat. If you lose it, you fail." Murmurs rippled through the room, but Ibiki's next words cut them down. "You will be separated. Locked in different rooms. You will hear screams. You will hear chains, begging, breaking. You will think your comrades are being tortured. Maybe you'll think you're next. But you will not see a thing. And you will not know the truth until it is over." He let that sink in, the silence heavy, the sound of nervous breathing filling the gaps. "This test is simple," Ibiki continued, eyes hard. "If the fear makes you crack if you give up your code, even for a second you fail. If you hold it until the end, no matter what you hear, you pass." A smirk ghosted over his scarred face. "Most of you will fail. That's the point." The proctors began barking orders, herding squads out of their seats and into the side corridors. Chains rattled, doors slammed, bolts locked. And just like that, the hall that had been filled with rookies moments before was left echoing with silence. The first test had begun. Ibiki stood at the front of the hall, scarred head gleaming under the harsh lantern light, his presence pressing the air thin. "This test is not about answers. It is about loyalty." His gravel voice scraped across every genin in the room. "Each squad will be locked in separate chambers. You will be given a code. That code is survival. Lose it, and your team fails." He let the silence stretch before he went on. "You will hear screams. You will hear begging. You will think your teammates are being torn apart. Maybe you'll think you're next. But the rule never changes, hold on to the code. Fail, and you're done." Then his eyes slid to Team 7. Cold. Deliberate. "Some of you will be tested more directly." Proctor seized Naruto by the arms before he could react, dragging him away from Sasuke and Sakura. They shouted, tried to follow, but the door slammed shut between them. They were shoved into a bare chamber, a single light overhead, facing a one-way mirror. On the other side, Naruto was strapped into a heavy iron chair, leather belts biting his wrists and chest. His eyes darted, storm-dark with fury and fear. A needle slid into his arm. The DRG hit fast. His head lolled for a moment before his vision swam back into focus. When he lifted his eyes, he saw the men in masks, knives glinting under the light. Slowly, methodically, they pressed steel into his skin. Thin red lines welled, deliberate, cruel. Naruto clenched his jaw but the sound still escaped him, a strangled gasp through gritted teeth. On the other side of the glass, Sasuke's hands curled into fists so tight his nails cut flesh. Sakura pressed forward, her palms flat against the glass, her heart hammering as Naruto's BLD streaked the floor. Ibiki's voice filled their room, calm, merciless. "Your teammate suffers. He will beg. He will bleed. If you surrender your code, the pain ends. If you don't." The screams carried through the walls. "Then he learns what it means to be a hunter." Naruto thrashed once against the straps, but they held him firm. The needle slid into his arm, cold fire rushing through his veins. His head sagged, then snapped upright again, eyes glassy but burning. The knives gleamed under the light. They didn't cut deep, just enough to sting, just enough to open, but each wound was sealed with hot iron, the smell of scorched flesh thick in the air. Pain stacked on pain, a rhythm of carving and cauterizing, until Naruto's breaths came ragged, chest heaving against the leather belts. On the other side of the glass, Sasuke's nails dug crescent moons into his palms, his face pale but hard as steel. Sakura pressed her hands to the mirror until her knuckles blanched, her throat aching with the scream she refused to let loose. Every stab tore at her memory of the girl on the bridge, but she held fast. Naruto lifted his head, blood running in thin lines down his skin. His teeth bared in a vicious grin. "Don't tell them, don't you dare. I won't die here." One of the masked men slapped him, then stabbed again, slower, crueler, the iron hissing as it burned the wound shut. Naruto jerked, a strangled sound tearing from his throat, but he didn't beg. He didn't break. Ibiki's voice cut through the chamber, calm as stone. "This is what it means to be a hunter. You bleed. You scream. You break. And if you survive, you carry the scars." The knives lifted for another cut then froze. The room flickered. The mirror shuddered, lines of static racing across it. A mechanical buzz filled the air, and the image broke apart like smoke in the wind. Naruto sagged forward, trembling. The cuts were gone. The burns vanished. Only faint red marks remained where the belts had bound him. His chest heaved, his eyes still glassy from the DRG. On the other side of the glass, Sasuke and Sakura stumbled back, realizing at once. The mirror wasn't a mirror. It was a screen. Ibiki stepped into their room, scarred head gleaming, his gaze sweeping over all three. "What you watched wasn't real," he said flatly. And what he felt wasn't, either. Not in the flesh. He was injected with a hallucinogen. The pain was real in his nerves, but it left no wounds. Sasuke's fists trembled. Sakura's chest heaved with a sharp, silent sob. Ibiki's voice was merciless. The first test was never about pain. It was about loyalty. If you had cracked, if you had begged him to give the code, you'd all be finished. If he had begged me, the DRG would have wrung it out of him. But he didn't. He looked down at Naruto, who was slumped in the chair, lips curled in a bloodless smile even through exhaustion. Then at Sasuke, who hadn't moved a muscle from his rigid stance. At Sakura, whose fists still bled from her nails. "You endured," Ibiki said at last. His tone was flat, but there was a shadow of respect behind it. "Together. That's why you're still here." He leaned forward, voice dropping to a growl. "Congratulations. You passed the first test." When Team 7 was finally led back into the exam hall, Naruto still pale and trembling from the DRG, the room looked nothing like it had when they first entered. Where once there had been nearly 80 squads packed wall to wall, only a scattering remained. The silence was heavier than any roar. Chairs sat empty, rows upon rows. The weight of absence pressed harder than screams ever had. Ibiki stood at the front again, hands clasped behind his back, his scarred face as unreadable as stone. His voice cut through the stillness. 79 squads entered this hall. 20 leave it. A sharp intake of breath rippled through the survivors. Ibiki's eyes swept them all, lingering briefly on Naruto, then on Sasuke's red stare, then on Sakura's clenched fists. That is the price of weakness. You've all seen it now, how quickly comrades can crack, how thin loyalty becomes when tested with fear. He paused, the words dragging like blades. Remember this, the demons you face will tear at more than your flesh. They'll tear at your trust. If you can't hold the line for the one beside you, you're already dead. The survivors shifted, some nodding grimly, others staring at the floor. Among the 20 who remained were familiar faces. Team 8. Team 10. Team Guy. The Rookie 9. Every rookie squad from Konoha had endured. Whether through grit, stubbornness, or the sheer will not to lose to one another, they had all survived where nearly 60 squads had failed. The thought sent a shiver through the hall. Ibiki's lips curled into the faintest suggestion of a smile. Congratulations. You've passed the first test of the Chunin exams. The surviving squad said nothing. There was no cheer, no applause, only the knowledge of what they had just endured, and the unshakable truth that the worst was still to come. The silence of the hall lingered even after Ibiki's gravel voice faded. Survivors sat stiff in their seats, 20 squads out of nearly 80, the weight of absence pressing down like a shroud. The door slammed open. A whirlwind of energy strode in fishnet sleeves, trench coat. Flaring, a wide grin carved across her face like she thrived on the unease in the air. Her voice cracked like a WHP. "No rest," she barked, eyes sweeping the room with manic delight. "The second test starts now. Get off your asses and follow me." Some of the rookies blinked, still dazed from Ibiki's gauntlet, but she was already striding toward the exit, not waiting to see if anyone followed. Her presence was fire after Ibiki's cold steel, a jolt that yanked the exhausted back onto their feet. As squads began to shuffle after her, murmurs rose. "No rest? Already?" But the proctors standing at the edges only folded their arms, silent, confirming this wasn't a bluff. Team 7 exchanged looks, Naruto still pale from the DRG, Sasuke sharp-eyed, Sakura steady despite her trembling fists. All three stood as one. They'd endured Ibiki's hell. Whatever came next, they would not falter now. Anko glanced back once, her grin widening at the sight of the 20 squads moving after her. "Good," she purred, voice dripping with anticipation. "If you thought the first test was fun," she laughed, sharp and wild. "Wait until you see what I've got planned." The heavy doors swung open, spilling the survivors out into the harsh sunlight. The second trial had already begun. Anko stopped at the edge of the hollow, a massive ravine cut deep into the earth. Iron gates sealed the entrance, etched with talismans glowing faintly purple, the sickly sweet smell of wisteria heavy in the air. Beyond the gates, the forest stretched black and endless, the air inside thicker, heavier wrong. She spun on her heel, trench coat flaring, grin wide as ever. "Welcome to the second test." Her voice rang sharp across the gathered squads. "This isn't a playground, BRTS. Inside this hollow are demons Chunin level, every last one of them. Not the dumb beasts you fought in the genin exams. These ones are clever. They're hunters." Murmurs rippled through the rookies. Anko held up a hand and the noise died. "Your goal is simple, kill one. You've got 3 days. The wisteria woven through this place keeps them from escaping, so you'll be locked in with them." Her smile sharpened, eyes flashing. "If you're lucky enough or stupid enough to kill 3, you can leave early. But if you don't kill at least one, you'll spend all 3 days inside." She let the weight of that hang before her grin softened into mock sweetness. "Oh, and one more rule. No attacking other teams. No alliances. This is about your squad. Not what favors you can call in." Her tone dropped cold, the grin vanishing. "This test will prove whether you can handle B-rank missions without a jonin to bail you out. Out there, that's what you'll face, cunning demons, no backup, and no second chances." She folded her arms, eyes scanning the 20 squads that remained. "So if you don't think you can handle it, quit now. Don't let bravado get you killed. There's no shame in walking away." Silence stretched. Then, slowly, 3 squads stepped forward. Their heads hung low, faces flushed with shame, but none dared look back as they turned away. The rest stood firm. 17 squads remained. Anko's grin returned, sharper than ever. "Good. The rest of you step forward." She flicked a kunai, and the iron gates groaned open, the stink of wisteria and something far fouler rolling out from the hollow's depths. "Your trial begins now." At Anko's signal, the gates yawned wide, the stench of wisteria mixing with the damp, heavy rot of the hollow. The forest beyond seemed to swallow light, branches knitting together into a canopy that blotted out the sun. "Move!" Anko barked. The squad surged forward, boots pounding against the earth. No one lingered, not after Ibiki's test, not with the promise of demons waiting inside. They ran staggered, each squad breaking off in different directions, the pattern drilled into them: spread wide, don't clump, don't risk another team's path crossing yours. Within moments, the rookies were swallowed by the hollow, 17 squads scattered like seeds cast into a storm. The forest itself seemed alive, shadows curling in strange shapes, branches creaking like whispers overhead. Every root felt like a trap, every shift of leaves a predator's breath. Team 8 vanished northward, Kiba's voice sharp in the distance before it was cut by silence. Team 10 melted east, Shikamaru muttering about troublesome strategies while Ino snapped back at him, Choji close behind. Team Guy thundered west with their usual fiery energy, the sound of Lee's exuberant voice fading into the trees. And Team 7 Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura dropped into formation without a word, heading deeper, straight into the hollow's heart. Their footsteps were quiet, their breathing controlled. The weight of 3 days hung heavy, but none of them faltered. Behind them, the iron gates clanged shut. The forest was theirs now. And the demons were waiting. The hollow swallowed light, every step heavier as Team 7 moved deeper, the canopy knitting tighter overhead. The forest stank of damp earth and wisteria, the air heavy enough to cling to their lungs. Naruto's eyes flicked at every shift of shadow, Sasuke's jaw was tight, Sakura's fingers hovered near her blade. They didn't know they were being watched. Above them, hidden among the twisted branches, a pair of long, narrow eyes gleamed yellow, serpentine, unblinking. They trembled with excitement as they followed every step the rookies took. A tongue slid across pale lips, savoring the anticipation. A shadow swelled beside him, taller, broader, a figure radiating menace even though his aura was locked tight. His skin gleamed faintly like scales, and when he smiled, the forest seemed to recoil from the jagged rows of teeth. The serpent-eyed watcher licked his lips, voice a whispering hiss. So young but the smell of them. The shark man's chuckle was low, grinding, like boulders rolling under the tide. Don't get too eager. If they feel us now, the game's ruined. But the serpent's grin only widened as he leaned forward, tongue tasting the air. I haven't smelled prey like this in years. His gaze locked on the streak of gold below Naruto's hair catching faint light through the canopy. They'll scream beautifully. The shark man folded his massive arms, his voice dripping with menace. 3 days in this forest, and they don't even know they've already been marked. At last, the names hung between them like a curse. Orochimaru. Kisame. 2 predators crouched in the hollow shadows, their power pressed low, smothered beneath the veil of wisteria. Waiting. The examiners think this forest is their test, Orochimaru hissed, eyes gleaming brighter as his grin split wider. But no, this will be ours. Kisame's blue eyes flashed, his jagged grin stretching wider. Then let's see who survives. They melted back into the dark, vanishing as though the trees themselves had swallowed them. Below, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura pressed deeper into the hollow. Their eyes sharp, their nerves taut yet utterly unaware that the true predators had already fixed them in their sights. The hunt had begun. Rumi trained until her arms trembled, but her heart wasn't in it. The blade rose and fell in her hands, the movements clean, practiced but empty. Celine corrected her posture, urged her to focus, but even when Rumi sang through her lessons, the melodies faltered. Too much weight sat in her chest. It had been months since she last saw Naruto. He wasn't the boy who flicked marbles across the floor anymore. He wasn't the one who bowed too many times or flushed red when words slipped from his mouth. He was a hunter now. She, a sealer. Her path was song, ritual, idols that bent the air and bound souls. His was blood, steel, and storms, each demon's growl promising death. The gulf between them widened with every step. And no matter how much she told herself she supported his dream, a whisper always came back, what if one day he doesn't return? The thought made her falter mid-note. And when her emotions spiked, the patterns crept across her skin, glowing marks curling like ink across her arms. Celine caught the flicker and gave her a look. Rumi tugged her sleeves down quickly. No one but the Leaf's Hunter Corps, the elders, and Celine knew the truth. Her father had been a demon. She was half demon. It wasn't the same kind that murdered Naruto's family, Celine always reminded her. Those demons were grotesque, monstrous, marked by claws and jagged maws, no patterns like hers. But that comfort was paper-thin. A demon was a demon. What would Naruto think if he ever knew? At night, Rumi sat with an old photo pressed to her chest. She, Naruto, Celine, and Jiraiya 7 years old, still innocent. Before the silence. Before scars. Before secrets. Her 17th birthday loomed days away, and all she could think was, he wouldn't be there. When she whispered, her voice cracked. Please come back safe. The next morning Zoe nearly tackled her after drills, waving her phone. Rumi, you're pouting again. Bet it's about Blondie, huh? Don't deny it. Mira sighed but smirked, tugging Zoe back by the sleeve. Ignore her. But she's not wrong. Rumi flushed. I'm not, I just. Zoe threw her arms around her dramatically. Our Rumi's in love. Don't worry, when he comes back, I'll make sure he notices you. You'll thank me later. Mira shook her head, hiding a small smile. Zoe, stop. You're making her worse. But Zoe's teasing and Myra's quiet support chipped a little of the weight away. Rumi even smiled, faint and fleeting, but real. Still, when night fell, the silence returned, and her eyes drifted again to the photo. To him. To the boy she missed more than she dared admit. Oblivious to Rumi's thoughts miles away, Naruto jogged through the hollow with Sasuke and Sakura at his heels. Their boots sank into damp earth, weapons ready, every sense on edge for demons. Sakura suddenly slowed, catching Naruto's sleeve. Hold on. I have an idea. What if we draw them out instead of just wandering around waiting for something to attack? Naruto frowned, tilting his head. How? You want me to dump pig BLD on myself and yell, oh no, I'm helpless, please come eat me. Before he could finish, Sakura smacked the back of his head with her palm. Idiot. Sasuke's mouth twitched, the faintest smirk breaking his usual calm. TCH, wouldn't even have to act. Naruto grinned, rubbing the sore spot. Says the guy who brewed so much the demons would fall asleep before they got to him. Sakura pinched the bridge of her nose, but even she couldn't stop the smile tugging at her lips. For all their bickering, the rhythm between them was sharp, alive. And in this cursed forest, it felt like defiance, a spark against the dark. Sakura held her ground, crossing her arms. I wasn't kidding. I have a vial of golden BLD. Naruto blinked, then whirled on her. Golden BLD. You've been carrying that around this whole time? Sasuke's brows arched, sharp with curiosity. Is it actually golden? Naruto threw his hands up. That's it. We're wasting our time in the exams, we could have been rich. Sakura, we could have retired already. Sakura groaned, rubbing her temple. It's not literally gold, you morons. It's a rare BLD type. Demons lose control when they smell it. Sasuke's smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. So we bait them with you. What? Sakura's eyes went wide. Naruto folded his arms, grinning. Yeah, sounds fair. You bring the crazy BLD, we bring the swords. Teamwork. Sakura smacked him across the chest, cheeks flushed. Idiot, I'm not bleeding all over the forest. I said I have a vial. We use it carefully. Their laughter and arguing carried through the trees, loud enough that even the shadows seemed to stir. Somewhere deeper in the hollow, something growled in response. They found a clearing between twisted trees and set the trap. Sakura knelt, uncorked the small glass vial, and poured the golden BLD across the length of a fallen log. The air changed instantly, sharp, metallic, sweet in a way that made Naruto's stomach twist. The forest answered. Branches snapped. Leaves shivered though no wind blew. Then it stepped out. At first glance it looked human. Too human. A tall figure with sunken eyes, skin pale and stretched thin, nails curling into claws that scraped bark as it walked. Its head tilted unnaturally far to the side as it sniffed, its cracked lips curling into something between a smile and a snarl. Golden, it hissed, voice rasping like rusted metal. Naruto's grip tightened on his sword. This wasn't like the feral ones that lunged blindly. This one thought. He could see it in the way its eyes darted between them, measuring distance, weighing strength. Sasuke slid into stance, blade angled low. Not a beast. This one knows what it's doing. Even better, Naruto muttered, stepping forward. Then it'll understand when I cut it down. The demon's smile widened, showing teeth like broken glass. Then it leapt. The thing blurred forward, claws scything through the air. Naruto caught the first strike, steel shrieking against its nails, but the impact rattled his arms. Strong. Before he could counter, the demon twisted, pivoting low, and raked toward his stomach. Sasuke slid in, blade intercepting, sparks flying as metal kissed claw. For a breath, the two of them locked it down, but its weight shifted again, faster than expected. A knee drove up, catching Sasuke in the ribs, knocking him sideways. It. Sasuke gritted, rolling back to his feet. Sakura was already moving. She darted behind the log, flung the blood-soaked bark to distract it, then lunged in with her willow stance quick, sharp thrusts meant to harry, not overwhelm. The demon turned, swiping at her, but she pivoted just out of reach. Its claws barely brushed her sleeve. Naruto surged back in. Storm stance. His blade crackled faintly with energy, strikes hammering fast, relentless. Each swing drove the demon back an inch, then another. But the monster adapted. It didn't fight like an animal. Every time Naruto swung wide, it slipped inside his guard. Every time Sasuke feinted, its black eyes caught the tell. The two boys were fast, but it was cunning. Sakura saw it first. You're fighting like individuals. Together. Naruto ground his teeth, but listened. He shifted into whirlpool stance, his cuts more fluid, designed to flow into Sasuke's counters. Sasuke adjusted in turn, interception style threading through Naruto's arcs, exploiting every opening. And Sakura steady, precise wove in from the side, keeping its movements boxed. The demon shrieked, claws flashing, but for every strike it landed, 3 more met steel. Step by step, Team 7 forced it into the clearing center, penned in by their rhythm. Naruto's blade crashed down, Sasuke's cut sliced across, and Sakura's move pierced low 3 angles, 1 heartbeat. The demon staggered, clawed hand clutching its chest, ichor spilling across the moss. Still grinning, it rasped, "Not bad, hunters." Then its body crumbled into ash. The clearing went quiet again, save for their ragged breathing. Naruto wiped his blade, panting. One down. Sasuke nodded, sweat strkng his temple. Not beasts anymore. The next ones won't be easier. Sakura exhaled, steadying herself. Good. Then we'll fight smarter. The clearing went still, the last motes of ash from the fallen demon drifting into the damp air. Team 7 stayed where they were, blades raised, listening to the hollow breathe around them. Naruto dropped onto a fallen log, sweat dripping down his jaw. We earned a minute. Just a minute. Sakura leaned against a tree, forcing slow breaths into her lungs, the burn in her arms refusing to fade. Even Sasuke, always stoic, flexed his hand over his bruised ribs before crouching near Naruto. For a heartbeat, it felt like they could rest. Then the air shifted. The ground trembled beneath them, a ripple running through the soil. The moss at their feet blackened, dried, and crumbled as if sucked clean of life. A shape moved through the trees, slow, deliberate, as if it had all the time in the world. When it stepped into the clearing, their stomachs dropped. This one wasn't grotesque, nor gaunt. Its body was lean, corded with muscle, and its eyes burned with sickly green fire. As it raised one clawed hand, the earth beneath it cracked and jagged stone spears erupted upward, skewering the log Naruto had just vacated. Elemental, Sasuke muttered, teeth gritting. It's using the hollow itself. Naruto's jaw tightened. His hand clenched around his sword hilt until blue sparks danced, crackling down the blade. The air around him pulsed, his soul resonance answering his fury. Sasuke's eyes bled red as his Sharingan snapped open, his vision sharpening, every twitch of the demon's muscles clear to him now. I'll read its movements. You strike. Sakura's hand shook as she pulled a vial from her pouch, plunged the needle into her arm, and injected herself. Fire raced through her veins, her muscles tightening, trembling, then steadying with unnatural strength. No holding back, she said through gritted teeth. The demon tilted its head, a cruel smile stretching wide. Then the ground erupted again, stone shards lancing outward. Team 7 moved as one. The demon raised both arms, claws flexing. Fire burst from its palms in a roaring sheet, the clearing swallowed in orange. Move! Naruto shouted, rolling low, sparks flashing along his body as his resonance snapped alive. Sasuke darted right, Sharingan eyes catching every twitch of its muscles. He saw the shift in its stance, the way its weight shifted before the ground cracked. Sakura, left, he barked, and she pivoted just in time as a jagged spear of stone erupted where her chest had been. The demon lunged. Naruto met it head-on, blade crackling. He slashed upward, scattering flame, then spun into a downward cut. Sparks hissed against claws as the force drove the creature back. It answered by slamming its heel into the earth. Stone walls surged upward, cutting Naruto off. Sasuke vaulted over, blade a blur. His slash raked across the demon's chest, black ichor spraying. Roaring, it swung fiery claws. Sasuke ducked under, and in the instant of space his voice cut sharp, now, Sakura. She slid in like water, willow stance flowing. Quick, stinging strikes snapped into the demon's side and thigh, forcing its balance to falter. When it whirled on her, Sasuke's blade was there to intercept, sparks flying as steel locked against claw. Naruto tore through the stone barrier in a storm-charged spin, blade arcing wide. Try this. The demon reeled under the pressure. Fire swept across the ground, but Sakura vaulted over it, landing light and stabbing low. Sasuke's interception style closed every gap, his counters making the monster hesitate. Naruto hammered from the front, each strike louder, heavier, like a storm breaking through the hollow itself. The three of them moved as one, Naruto's power, Sasuke's precision, Sakura's agility weaving through the chaos. Every slash, block, and strike fell in rhythm, their rolls clicking like pieces of a single blade. The demon tried one last surge, claws burning white-hot, but Sasuke's eyes caught the tell. Naruto high. Naruto leapt, storm blade raised, lightning trailing. He crashed down in a thunderous arc, Sakura striking low at its leg, Sasuke's slash cutting across its ribs. 3 angles, 1 heartbeat. The elemental shrieked, staggered, then collapsed, its green fire eyes sputtering out before its body crumbled to ash. Silence reclaimed the clearing, broken only by their heavy breathing. Naruto smirked, lowering his crackling sword. 2 down. Sasuke sheathed his blade, his smirk faint but real. And they'll only get harder. Sakura steadied her stance, brushing soot from her cheek. Her smile was tired, but bright. Then we'll keep getting stronger. For the first time, they didn't just feel like rookies in over their heads. They looked and fought like a team. Sakura bent to collect the remains, one claw from the first beast, another still steaming from the elemental's ash. Proof of their kills. Her fingers shook, but not from fear. Adrenaline still thrummed in her veins. Naruto slid his sword back into its sheath, the last sparks fading. 2 claws. 2 demons down. He smirked. We're ahead. Sasuke scanned the tree line, eyes still sharp, Sharingan fading but his guard never lowering. Don't get cocky. Something else will smell the BLD. That was when it came low, cold, curling through the trees. Kukuku, so the kitties have claws of their own, huh? The laugh slithered across the clearing, too close, too confident. The air itself seemed to drop a degree, shadows thickening between the trees. Naruto froze, hand instinctively snapping back to his hilt. Who's there? Another chuckle, sharper this time, and from the left. Then the right. The sound seemed to circle them. Sakura's grip tightened on her proof, chest tightening. This doesn't feel like the others. This feels worse. From the branches above, yellow eyes blinked open. Not glowing wildly like beasts. Narrow. Focused. Intelligent. Sasuke's jaw clenched, blade sliding free in a whisper of steel. This isn't another stray demon. Naruto's knuckles whitened, storm already whispering under his skin. Then let's find out what kind of monster laughs like that. The cold laughter coiled tighter, pressing against their nerves until the trees themselves seemed to shudder. Then, from the shadows, he stepped into view. Pale skin, hair long and black as ink, eyes slit like a serpent's, a presence that made the air heavy just by existing. Orochimaru. Naruto froze, his breath hitching. His sword trembled in his grip, stormlight crackling faintly before dimming. His voice broke in a whisper that felt torn out of his chest. You. The Sanin's lips curled into a smile, sharp, mocking, predatory. Ah, so you remember. He tilted his head, gaze sliding over Naruto's face, lingering on the marks carved into his skin. I hope you liked the whiskers, Orochimaru purred. I did my best to carve them deep to make them look natural. Naruto's stomach twisted. His vision tunneled. For an instant, the forest was gone, replaced by the memory of claws raking fire across his face, the stench of BLD, his parents' screams swallowed by the night. Sasuke's eyes widened, his blade snapping up defensively. Naruto. Sakura's BLD went cold, the vial clutched tight in her hand. She didn't know the details, but she didn't need to. She could feel it in Naruto's shaking frame. Orochimaru's smile widened at the silence, as though savoring the wound he had reopened. You wear them well, boy. Like a brand. Like my mark. The hollow itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for Naruto's answer. Naruto's whole body trembled. His breath came ragged, the storm under his skin flaring, sparks biting into the damp air. His fingers clenched his sword hilt until the leather creaked. Then it broke. You bstrd, he roared, voice shattering the silence of the hollow. His storm cracked outward in a violent surge, wind kicking up dirt and ash. His eyes burned, wild and bloodshot. You killed them. You killed my parents. The words echoed through the trees like a vow, like a wound torn open all over again. Orochimaru only smiled wider, unfazed by the storm. Ah, so the little cub remembers the slaughter. The way your mother screamed. The way your father fought, oh so bravely, and bled all the same. Naruto's teeth ground together, a sound more animal than human. Every nerve screamed to cut him down, to end it here and now, no matter the cost. Sasuke slid forward, his blade raised, Sharingan spinning. He planted himself between Naruto and Orochimaru, eyes hard. Don't lose yourself, Dobe. That's what he wants. Sakura's breath shook, but she moved too, pressing close to Naruto's side, her hand brushing his arm. We're here. You're not alone this time. Orochimaru's chuckle slithered around them again. Kukuku, then let's see if your little team can save you, when your family could not. The ground beneath them shivered as his killing intent spread through the hollow like poison. Naruto's roar split the clearing as he hurled himself forward, blade snapping into his whirlpool stance. Fluid, relentless cuts poured like a tide, each strike flowing into the next, steel flashing in arcs meant to drown an opponent. Orochimaru didn't move at first. He just laughed low, cruel, mocking. His pale hand slid lazily to the hilt of his own blade, deflecting Naruto's flurry with contemptuous ease. "Your mother tried that," he purred, sidestepping a slash and letting his tongue flick against the air. The same stance. The same desperation. Naruto's storm crackled hotter, his teeth gritted until they bled. Sasuke lunged in from the side, blade a blur, his red eyes reading every twitch, every shift. His cuts were sharp, surgical, meant to slice through the cracks Naruto created. But Orochimaru smiled at him, to a smile that made Sasuke's stomach drop. "Your brother was faster." The words cut deeper than steel. Sasuke's strike faltered for the smallest instant, his grip tightening in fury. Orochimaru slid between them like a serpent, his movements too smooth, too fluid. He parried Naruto's storm blade, kicked him back with inhuman force, then twisted aside as Sasuke's slash hissed past his throat by inches. "Kukuku children with sharp teeth," he mocked, eyes glittering. But still only children. Sakura tightened her grip on her blade from the edge of the clearing, her chest pounding. Every instinct screamed at her to move, to join the fight, but Orochimaru's presence was suffocating, like trying to breathe in a room with no air. Naruto staggered, rage shaking him apart. Sasuke reset his stance, eyes burning. Together, side by side, they faced the monster who had scarred them both, one with whiskers carved into his flesh, the other with BLD on his family's name. Naruto's storm cut crashed against Orochimaru's blade, sparks showering. Sasuke swept in from the side, his slash aimed for the ribs, but Orochimaru twisted smoothly, parrying one and deflecting the other with a flick of his wrist. His smile widened, mocking, assured. Kukuku's sharp fangs, dull bite. That was when Sakura moved. She darted from the edge of the clearing, quicker than Orochimaru expected. He didn't even glance at her, a fatal mistake. She slid low, her willow stance carrying her under the arc of his arm, and drove her blade in a sharp jab at his side. It wasn't the strike itself that made his grin falter, it was the hiss of liquid spilling from the vial built into her hilt. Pure wisteria. Concentrated. Orochimaru staggered back, his pale features twitching as the toxin burned through his veins. His serpent eyes narrowed, the cruel smile replaced by a sharp snarl. "You," his voice dripped venom, no longer mocking. "You dare." Sakura landed lightly, chest heaving, but her grip was steady. "You should have paid attention to me." Naruto's eyes widened in shock, then gleamed with fierce pride. Sasuke's smirk flickered to life, brief but real. Orochimaru's hand clutched the wound, his skin already blistering faintly around it. He licked his lips, the fury clear even through the pain. "Wisteria, clever little insect. You'll die screaming for that." But his movements slowed just slightly, just enough. And that was all Team 7 needed. The wisteria hissed inside him, slowing his limbs, burning his veins, but Orochimaru only laughed through clenched teeth. "Kukuku clever. But poison won't save you." He surged forward, faster than before, his blade whipping in a black arc. Naruto braced, storm resonance flaring, sparks tearing through the air as he met the strike head-on. The force rattled his bones, sent him skidding backward, boots carving furrows in the soil. Sasuke lunged to cover, red eyes reading Orochimaru's movements, intercepting slash after slash. For a moment, it looked like he could keep up. But the Sannin's speed was monstrous, deceptive feints, serpent-quick strikes that even Sharingan struggled to follow. "Pathetic," Orochimaru hissed, then pivoted. His blade lashed out sideways. Sakura barely raised her guard before the flat of the sword smashed across her chest. The impact lifted her off her feet, the edge carving deep through cloth and skin. She hit the ground hard, BLD blooming across her uniform, her body limp. "Sakura!" Naruto's scream tore through the clearing. Sasuke snarled, charging, his blade sparking under the crimson glow of his eyes. He struck fast, furious, but Orochimaru's hand shot out, claws wrapping around Sasuke's throat. With a single swing, he slammed him into the earth. The ground cracked. Sasuke's body sank 2 feet into the soil from the sheer force of the blow. He coughed blood, struggling, pinned like an insect under a boot. Naruto's storm flared violently, lightning snapping around him, wind howling as if the hollow itself bent to his rage. His resonance surged past anything he had touched before, the crackle in the air so thick it hurt to breathe. But Orochimaru only licked his lips, eyes gleaming, even as the wisteria burned him from the inside. Yes, show me your fury. Show me what Jiraiya's little cub can do. Naruto's hands shook around his sword, his heart hammering. He could feel it, the storm clawing at him, the edge between man and monster. Sakura broken. Sasuke crushed. Orochimaru smiling. He roared, and the storm answered. Water seeped up from the soil, swirling unnaturally around Naruto's boots. It rose higher, coiling up his legs in twisting streams. Wind screamed through the clearing, bending trees to their roots, carrying sparks of electricity that spat and cracked against the bark. The storm wasn't just around him, it was him. An active hurricane, alive and snapping, wrapping his body like a serpent coiled to strike. Naruto's eyes glowed through the chaos, his chest heaving, every breath a roar. The ground trembled under his steps as he raised his blade, lightning dancing along the steel, wind screaming in a spiral. Sasuke, bloodied and half buried in the ground, could barely lift his head. His crimson eyes widened. Not in fear, but in awe. Dobe. Sakura's shallow breaths rattled from where she lay, but even unconscious, her lips trembled at the raw power shaking the air. Orochimaru didn't recoil. He didn't falter. He smiled. That long, serpent grin split his pale face, eyes dilating with sick excitement. He spread his arms, as if welcoming the storm. Appealing, he hissed. So this is the cub's true form. Your rage wears the sky itself like armor. Oh, Naruto, you were made for me. Naruto's answer was wordless. A roar, primal and broken, as the hurricane struck forward. The hurricane snapped tighter around Naruto's body, no longer wild but controlled, precise. His stance shifted, feet sliding into a low rhythm, blade raised. Storm dance. He lunged and the air itself screamed. Lightning exploded from his blade, an extension of steel that turned each move into a spear of crackling death. Orochimaru's eyes widened as the first arc hissed past his cheek, scorching flesh before he twisted away. Naruto spun, his slash carrying a whistle like a blade longer than sight itself. The wind cut, a crescent scythe that cleaved bark from trees and sent shards flying. Orochimaru's sword met it, sparks showering as his grin finally faltered. Every strike came with another element. A jab with lightning that shattered his guard. A sweep where the wind sang and cut deeper than steel. A block that summoned water, dragging down Orochimaru's counterstrike as if the hollow itself fought for Naruto. For the first time in years, Orochimaru had to try. His serpent body twisted, parried, bent unnaturally to avoid the arcs of lightning, the sweeping blades of air. But Naruto pressed him with a rhythm like no rookie should have known, fury guiding every step, every cut. Kukuku. Orochimaru hissed, his laugh breaking into a snarl as a move of stormlight pierced through his sleeve, burning flesh. He recoiled, only to be met by a downward slash that would have split him in two if not for a desperate block. The impact drove him to a knee. The hurricane roared, a living serpent of storm coiled around Naruto, ready to strike again. His eyes burned, feral and human all at once, his voice raw when it came. You killed my family. You scarred me. I'll end you here. For the first time, Orochimaru's smile slipped. His blade trembled against the storm pressing down on him. And in that heartbeat, even the hollow seemed to believe Naruto could kill a Sannin. Orochimaru's tongue flicked, his eyes narrowing. Impressive, boy, but storms break. His skin rippled. Bones cracked. His spine stretched in unnatural ways as his body bent and slithered, still humanoid but longer, coiled, his limbs twisting with unnatural grace. His sword stretched with him, slashing down in a blur that hissed like a serpent strike. Snake mode. Naruto braced, storm dancing. Lightning flared as he lunged, his blade crackling with electricity. Orochimaru twisted around it, his torso bending at an impossible angle, countering with a strike that rattled Naruto's arms to the bone. They clashed again and again, the clearing nothing but thunder, steel, and shrieks of tearing wind. Naruto's storm blades extended with every swing, cutting wider arcs, the wind howling loud enough to split bark from trees. Water burst upward at each block, slowing Orochimaru's slashes, buying Naruto fractions of seconds. But fractions weren't enough. Orochimaru's serpent frame slid and coiled around the hurricane, his speed monstrous, his reach unending. Every time Naruto gained ground, another WHP of his blade or lashing limb pushed him back. His boots tore furrows in the earth, his storm flaring hotter, wilder, but Orochimaru's grin returned sharp and cruel. Is this what Jiraiya's cub has become? Orochimaru hissed, blade pressing down against Naruto's crackling edge. A storm fit to roar but not yet fit to kill. Naruto's teeth clenched, sweat and blood stinging his eyes as his storm surged, refusing to break. He held his ground, the hurricane screaming around him, but inch by inch, Orochimaru pressed him back. Naruto's blade trembled under Orochimaru's pressure, his storm raging but faltering. Inch by inch, he was being driven down, his boots grinding deeper into the soil. Orochimaru's grin widened, serpent eyes glinting with victory. Then it happened. The whisker scars carved into Naruto's cheeks burned. Not blue, not stormlight but red. They flared like open wounds, pulsing with a dormant energy that didn't belong to him. His head jerked back, his breath hitching as the storm twisted, warped. Wind and lightning shrieked louder, snapping into chaos, but beneath it all slithered something foreign, a deep, seething energy that coiled through him like venom. His eyes snapped open, glowing crimson, pupils slitted. Orochimaru froze. For the first time in the fight, his smirk faltered. Impossible, he hissed, voice low. You can access foreign demon energy. The storm around Naruto convulsed, no longer just water, wind, and lightning but streaks of red heat, arcs of raw malice tearing through the clearing. The hurricane didn't just roar now. It screamed. Naruto's lips curled back in a snarl, his voice layered with something inhuman. You scarred me with your claws, I'll carve you apart with mine. Orochimaru stepped back, serpent body coiling tighter, his grin twisting back but tighter, sharper, edged with genuine interest. Kukuku, now this is appealing. Naruto roared, and the storm answered like a god unchained. The hurricane exploded outward, red lightning tearing through the sky, wind shrieking so loud it shook the ground. Water surged up in spiraling torrents, fusing with the storm until the very air seemed to drown. He lunged. Every strike was cataclysm. His blade, extended by arcs of lightning and wind, carved through trees like they were paper, entire trunks sent flying into the sky. The ground split beneath his feet, jagged ravines spiderwebbing outward as if the hollow itself were being torn apart. Orochimaru blocked, parried, twisted with serpent grace, but each clash rattled him, each blow heavier than the last. His arms shuddered from the force, the earth cratering under their feet. A slash screamed through the clearing, cutting 3 trees clean in half, they toppled like dominoes. Another strike ripped a boulder from the soil, hurling it into the air only for Naruto's next swing to shatter it into pebbles before it could land. The boy's fury was no longer human. Orochimaru's grin stretched wider, almost manic, but his serpent eyes betrayed it a flash of shock, of thrill, of danger. This power, it's not his. It's not controlled. And yet he's channeling it. The hurricane pressed harder, every strike threatening to end him. Kukuku, Orochimaru hissed through gritted teeth, barely twisting out of the way of a slash that carved a ravine across the ground. Magnificent. Truly magnificent. You might actually kill me, boy. Naruto's crimson eyes blazed, his roar shaking the hollow again, as if daring him to stay. Naruto lunged again, lightning and wind roaring around his frame, his blade aimed straight for Orochimaru's throat. But the snake was faster this time. With a flicker of movement too sharp to follow, Orochimaru weaved between the storm, his serpent head snapping forward. His fangs sank deep into Naruto's shoulder. Naruto's scream ripped through the hollow, more fury than pain at first until the fire hit. The venom, thick with demonic essence, poured into his bloodstream like molten lead. His storm faltered, twisting out of rhythm, as his body convulsed under the unnatural power. Ah, Orochimaru hissed, savoring the sound of Naruto's agony. His tongue slithered across bloodied lips. Let's see how long you last carrying that inside you. My little gift, a sea of corruption. Will you MSTR it? Or will it MSTR you? Naruto fell to his knees, clutching his chest, eyes wild as crimson streaks seared brighter across his whisker scars. His blade trembled, electricity spiking uncontrollably, carving shallow scars into the dirt as he struggled just to breathe. Orochimaru stepped back, already slithering into the shadows, voice echoing with that mocking purr. You're strong, boy. Strong enough to make me curious. Don't die too quickly, I want to see what my venom makes of you. Kukuku. And with a flash of scales and laughter, he was gone. High above, in the distance, the faint crash of steel and the roar of chakra-imbued water echoed, Kisame likely finishing his distraction with the forest guards. Naruto collapsed fully, his storm guttering out like a dying flame, the ground around him scorched and torn. His hands shook violently as he forced himself not to scream again, the venom burning through his veins like a living thing. Sasuke's breath was ragged, his Sharingan burning as he hauled Naruto over his shoulders. The Storm Boy's skin was searing hot, black flame-like markings crawling across his chest and arms, burning into him as if alive. Every step made Sasuke's stomach twist. He'd fought demons before, but this was like carrying one. Naruto groaned, his voice rough, broken. Sasuke, don't let me turn. Sasuke's jaw clenched. Shut up. You're not dying on me. Not like this. The forest pressed close, thick with shadows and the stench of BLD. When a low growl rumbled from the cave ahead, Sasuke didn't hesitate. He dumped Naruto gently at the entrance, drew his black blade, and strode in. A demon lunged, fangs bared, claws dripping. Sasuke didn't flinch. His blade flickered once, clean and merciless, splitting the beast from neck to gut. It dissolved into smoke before it hit the ground. Without another word, Sasuke dragged Naruto inside, his boots sliding on the stone floor. Sakura stumbled in behind him, clutching her wounded chest, eyes wide at the sight of Naruto's body writhing under the black flames. Naruto, she cried, falling to her knees beside him. She reached for her pack, pulling out bandages, ointments, anything, though none of it would touch the demonic heat. Sasuke dropped beside them, his breath heavy. His eyes lingered on Naruto's scarred face, the way the markings pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. For the first time in a long while, Sasuke felt something icy stab through his chest. Fear. Not for himself. For Naruto. We'll hold him here, Sasuke muttered, voice steady despite the dread in his stomach. If Orochimaru comes back, he'll find 3 hunters waiting. Naruto thrashed against the stone floor, sweat pouring down his skin as the black markings pulsed like living fire. His voice cracked through the cave, raw and delirious. Stop playing with her corpse, that's my mother. His fists slammed against the ground, body arching like he was fighting unseen chains. What are you doing? She's just a baby stoop. Sakura's hands hovered uselessly, trembling as she tried to pin him down without burning herself. Her heart wrenched at the sight. This wasn't just pain, it was memory eating him alive. Then, softer, a broken whimper escaped his lips. I'm so sorry, Ryuko, big brother wasn't strong enough. Naruto's cries echoed through the cave, each word slicing deeper than any blade. Sasuke's fists clenched so tight his knuckles bled. He'd thought he'd known anger before at his brother, at himself, at fate. But watching Naruto writhe, broken by memories Orochimaru carved into his soul, that anger ignited into something else. His vision blurred. Then it sharpened. A searing heat crawled into his eyes, his breath hitching as his Sharingan twisted and burned. When the haze cleared, his reflection glared back from the damp cave wall, but it wasn't the same. Not 3 Tomo. Not the eyes of a cursed clan. But a storm. 6 jagged points spiraling outward like blades, red as fresh blood, pulsing with his heartbeat. Sakura gasped, hand covering her mouth. Sasuke, your eyes. He didn't look at her. His gaze was fixed on Naruto, on the boy thrashing in shadows that weren't his fault. His voice, low and steady, filled the cavern. Orochimaru will pay. The words carried a weight, a vow heavier than steel. No one hurts my friends. Not while I breathe. The storm-eyed Uchiha knelt beside Naruto, one hand bracing his friend's shoulder. The black marking still burned, but Sasuke's voice cut through the fever. You'll live, Naruto. And I'll make him regret ever touching you. And for the first time, Sasuke didn't just sound like an avenger. He sounded like a brother. Kakashi paced the length of the Jonin waiting room, boots grinding fresh grooves into the wooden floor. His hand hovered near his tanto, restless, twitching. Every few steps, he stopped, then started again carving the same worn path. The other Jonin watched in silence until Asuma finally broke it with a crooked grin. Geez, Kakashi, I thought you were so confident in your so-called dream team. Having second thoughts. Kakashi froze mid-step. His head lifted slowly, and when his eye met Asuma's, it wasn't lazy or half-lidded. It was sharp. Raw. I know you don't particularly care for these students' well-being, Kakashi said, voice taut as steel. But I do. They're 15. 15. And the only reason I nominated them is because their childhoods are already gone. The room went heavy. Kakashi's jaw worked, more words boiling up, but a firm hand landed on his shoulder before he could unleash them. He spun, ready to bite back only to see Guy. Not the booming, over-the-top rival with fire in his teeth and laughter in his lungs. But Guy at his calmest. Guy at his most human. Easy, Guy whispered, his voice strppd of theatrics, steady as stone. We know, Kakashi. We all know. But you've got to trust them. For a moment, Kakashi just stared, his chest rising and falling too fast, his mask hiding the tightness of his lips. And then, against his will, his shoulders eased. Because if there was one thing Kakashi Hatake could admit quietly, to himself, it was that in moments like these, he was grateful Guy was still beside him. The silence lingered, heavy enough to choke on, until Asuma exhaled through his nose and ran a hand through his hair. The smirk was gone. I'm sorry, he muttered, his voice quieter than usual. I didn't mean for it to come out like that. He leaned back against the wall, arms crossed, but his eyes were softer now. Believe it or not, I love those DMN kids. Even when they drive me crazy. Kakashi's glare loosened, though the tension didn't quite leave his shoulders. Asuma shrugged. Shikamaru's laziness, Ino's mouth, Choji sneaking food mid-briefing, sometimes I wanna wring their necks. But they're mine. And if anything happened to them, he let the sentence die in the air. Kurenai, watching from her corner, nodded slowly. We all feel the same. Guy gave one of his rare, calm smiles. It's the curse of being their teachers. We train them to fight like soldiers, but they're still children we'd throw ourselves in front of death for. For a moment, the room was quiet again, but this time, it wasn't heavy. It was shared. Kakashi sighed, his eyes softening. Though he still didn't stop pacing. I just hope we haven't asked too much of them. The room had almost settled into uneasy quiet when a gravelly voice cut through. "At least yours are halfway normal," someone muttered. Heads turned. It was Baki, the sans representative, a scar cutting across his cheek, arms folded tight. His expression was deadpan, but there was a flicker of amusement in his eye. "I've got a wannabe redhead emo who glares holes in the world, a girl who thinks she's the Amazon reborn, and a kid who can't stop fidgeting with his gadgets even mid-mission." A few chuckles broke the tension. Even Asuma snorted, shaking his head. "Guess crazy comes in every squad." Baki grunted. "Don't mistake me. They're sharp. Dangerous when they want to be. But normal?" His gaze flicked toward Kakashi. "Not a chance." Kurenai gave a small smile. "Maybe that's the point. Normal kids don't end up here." For the first time all evening, Kakashi actually paused in his pacing. His eyes softened, just a little. Maybe not. The worry didn't fade from him, but in that moment, he wasn't carrying it alone. Baki's words hung in the air for a beat, then Asuma huffed out a laugh. "Emo redhead, Amazon, and a tinkerer, huh? Sounds like a circus act. You sure you're not secretly volunteering for a comedy troupe?" Baki's scarred brow twitched, just slightly. "They'll outlive half of yours." That earned a low whistle from Guy. "A bold claim. But perhaps you'd like to trade? My Lee for your redhead?" Youthful fire for youthful scowling. Baki's deadpan stare was so flat it almost circled back to being funny. "No trades." Kurenai smirked into her hand. "Smart man. You'll learn to love the circus eventually." Asuma chuckled. "DMN, maybe we should do a draft. Shuffle the kids, spread out the crazy." "Over my dead body," Kakashi cut in, his tone sharp enough to halt the joke cold. He wasn't pacing anymore, but his single eye burned with quiet finality. "They're not pieces on a board." The banter faded, the weight returning but lighter now, less lonely. Guy gave a soft nod, crossing his arms. "He's right. They're ours. All of them. And we'll see them through, no matter how strange or broken they seem." Baki glanced around the room, his jaw tight, but even he dipped his chin in silent agreement. For a moment, there was no leaf, no sand, just teachers, waiting, worrying, and hoping their students came back alive. Naruto lay curled on the cold stone, breaths shallow and uneven. The black markings crawled across his skin like living ink, pulsing faintly with every fevered spasm. Night pressed against the cave mouth, the hollow beyond breathed low and hungry. 2 days remained on the clock. 2 days to finish the exam. 2 days to gather the fourth proof and drag him out before the forest sealed them in for good. Sasuke had returned with game, a small stag downed cleanly with a single, efficient strike. He'd butchered it without sound, then started a careful fire just inside the cave entrance. The smell of roasting meat pushed back, for a moment, the rancid tang of wisteria and decay. Sparks popped, a tiny constellation against the cave's black. He skewered chunks on a spit and turned them slowly, eyes never leaving Naruto. Sakura sat on a low rock at Naruto's side, hand flat against his clammy forehead. Her bandages were renewed, ointments layered and mixed, yet none of it chased away the fever dreams. She kept a vial of diluted wisteria within reach, though every time she lifted it she felt like she was offering a drop against an ocean. "He's not getting better," she said aloud, voice thin. "I've tried wisteria, poultices, the extraction drills we practiced. Nothing's slowing it. It burns faster than anything I've seen." Sasuke's jaw tightened. He said nothing at first, only watched as Naruto twitched, one fist clenching at a nightmare only he could see. The boy's lips moved, a string of broken syllables, names and pleas swallowed by the dark. Sasuke's fingers flexed around the hilt of his blade until the knuckles whitened. Finally he spoke, low and controlled. "We have 3 proofs. We need 1 more before dawn. We kill 1, quick and clean, and we cross the barrier. Get him help. Sakura swallowed, the sound like paper tearing. Tomorrow. Her voice cracked with the weight of it. We can't. We don't have a choice. Sasuke's answer was iron. He pushed the spit, letting the heat kiss the meat, then ladled a small portion into a bowl and propped it near Naruto's mouth. He knelt, close enough that his shoulder brushed Sakura's. For a breath, the two of them were simply two people in a cave, smoke in their lungs, exhaustion baked into their bones. Sakura's hands trembled as she smoothed her fingers through Naruto's hair. He's so warm. He's not alone, Sasuke said. The words were simple, but they carried the promise of all the desperate things he didn't say. Sleep. We'll be ready. She nodded, finally, and arranged a bundle of furs so Naruto's knees wouldn't be twisted and his head could settle. The soft scrap of cloth against his temple seemed absurdly gentle in a place that had seen so much violence. They ate in near silence. The meat tasted of ash and iron and something like small comforts. Every crack of branch outside made both of them look up, but the forest kept its distance for now, listening. When the last of the food was done, Sasuke gathered their gear. He checked the blades, feeling for chips. He secured Sakura's veil of wisteria and double-checked the proofs tucked in the lining of his pack: 2 claws, a scale, a fong, wrapped and kept dry. For talisman's worth of proof that would let them walk out. I'll take first watch, he said, folding his cloak around him. You sleep. Get rest. We move at first light. Sakura's eyes burned, but she managed a small, fierce nod. Wake me if anything changes. He hesitated one small, uncharacteristic pause, then leaned down and pressed his forehead for the barest second to Naruto's temple, as if to anchor him. Stay with us, he whispered, a vow without flourish. Sakura slipped down against the cave wall and tried to close her eyes. The cave hummed with small noises, the last hiss of embers, the slow tick of cooling stone, the soft ragged breath of the boy between them. Outside, the hollow waited. Inside, 2 teens kept vigil over a third, and in the quiet that followed every plan felt like a drumbeat counting them toward tomorrow. Sasuke stepped to the cave mouth and settled into a shadowed nook, blade across his knees, eyes scanning the tree line. The wind moved through the leaves like a distant warning, but his face did not give anything away. He watched. He listened. He counted breaths until the world thinned to the steady sound of Naruto's chest rising and falling. They had one shot. They would take it. Tomorrow they would hunt. Tonight they kept a fire, a bowl of half-cool meat, and the stubborn hope that proof would mean a way out. Sakura had just settled into second watch when the forest fell silent. No insects, no wind, only a faint hum that made the cave walls tremble. Her hand flew to her blade as 3 figures stepped from the tree line, their corrupted energy rolling ahead of them like a tide. Not ordinary demons. Not beasts. These were Nuke Genin once, now twisted into something worse. The leader pulled back his bandages just enough to reveal a gauntlet fused into his arm. It thrummed with a low, nauseating vibration that rattled Sakura's ribs. Dosu Kinyuta. To his left, jagged-haired Zaku lifted. Arms riddled with grotesque holes. A sharp blast split the air, stone dust showering from the cave ceiling. And behind them, Kintsuchi tilted her wrist so the bells at her hand chimed. Sakura blinked, and for a heartbeat she saw Naruto bleeding out before her, throat slit, smile fading. An illusion sharp enough to make her stomach twist. They weren't here by chance. Their gazes went straight to Naruto's unconscious body, black marks writhing across his skin. Our orders were clear, Dosu rasped, the hum of his gauntlet pressing into the air. Kill the Namikaze BRT. Leave the scraps for the crows. Zaku sneered, raising his arms. He's already half dead. Won't take more than one blast to finish him. Kin smiled, bells swaying. Almost ashamed to cut the thread while he dreams. Sakura stepped forward, planting herself between them and Naruto. Her whole body shook, but her voice was steady. You'll touch him over my corpse. Zaku barked a laugh. That can be arranged. The sound of steel sliding free broke through the tension. Sasuke rose from his crouch, eyes burning crimson. His stance was flawless, blade ready, his voice ice. You'll try, he said, stepping to Sakura's side, but you won't succeed. For a breath, the cave held still, the fire snapping, Naruto tossing in fevered dreams, the black marks crawling over his skin. Then Dosu raised his gauntlet, the first note thrumming like a war drum. The cave erupted. Zaku's blast of compressed air turned stone into shrapnel, forcing Sasuke to shield Sakura as she lunged low, her blade carving for Kin's bells. Dosu swung his gauntlet, the vibrations slamming Sasuke back against the rock wall. Sakura gritted her teeth, jabbing forward, nearly cutting Kin's wrist before an illusion blurred her sight. Behind them, Naruto whimpered, "Ryuko, I'm sorry," but neither Sasuke nor Sakura could look back. They fought alone, 2 against 3, standing between their broken teammate and certain death. The cave shook with every clash. Zaku's blasts ripped through stone, Dosu's gauntlet hummed with bone-breaking vibrations, and Kin's bells scattered illusions that clawed at the mind. Sakura's blade darted, blocking one strike, slipping past another, but every step left her dizzy. The sounds weren't just noise. They were weapons. Her vision blurred, stomach twisting, blood trickling from her ears. She gritted her teeth, forcing herself to focus. Each attack had a pattern. Dosu's hum, Zaku's blasts, Kin's chimes, all of it tied to sound. Her eyes widened. Sound. That's the key. She slashed at Kin, then ducked behind a rock, ripping her pouch open. Inside, a single pair of earmuffs, standard issue for hunters working near wailing demons. She clenched her jaw. Only one. Another blast shattered stone near her head. Sasuke staggered, blood dripping from his nose, eyes blazing but faltering. Sakura made her choice. She slipped the earmuffs from the pouch, then with her free hand pressed her blade hilt hard against her ears. The pain was sharp, unbearable, and then silence. She gasped, blood running warm from her ears, but the illusions shattered. The dizziness cleared. Her stance shifted, fluid now, willow strong. She hurled the earmuffs at Sasuke. "Use them," she shouted, her voice cracking. He caught them mid-swing, slipped them on, and his crimson eyes sharpened instantly. The vibrations dulled, the illusions broke. For the first time, they had a chance. Sasuke's lips curled into a rare, vicious smile. "Your mistake," he muttered, blade flashing. Together, they surged, Sasuke cutting through Zaku's blasts with perfect precision, Sakura weaving low, her blade striking Kin's bells from her hand. Dosu swung his gauntlet, but without the advantage of sound, it was nothing but steel. For the first time, the sound trio faltered. Sakura staggered to her feet, blade trembling in her hands. Blood still trickled from her ears where she'd burst her eardrums. No sound reached her anymore, only silence. The world was muffled and strange, but she could still see. Still fight. But she was slow, her body screaming with exhaustion, her stance breaking. Kin's illusions no longer worked on her, but every motion sent pain lancing through her skull. Zaku's blasts kept her pinned, forcing her back step by step. Then Dosu turned, gauntlet thrumming as he locked onto Naruto. The boy was helpless on the ground, black marks writhing across his body, lips moving in fevered nightmares. "The mission comes first," Dosu rasped, his voice nothing more than a vibration Sakura couldn't hear. "Kill the Namikes." Sakura lurched forward, blade raised, but she was too slow. Too far. She screamed soundlessly, her throat tearing though no noise escaped her broken ears. Sasuke saw it. Saw her helpless. Saw Dosu's gauntlet closing in on Naruto's chest. "No." The roar ripped from him, and fire answered. Flames burst from Sasuke's skin, crimson and raging, wrapping his body without burning it. His Sharingan spun into a storm, eyes blazing hotter than steel, and the resonance of his soul exploded outward. Dosu froze mid-stride, the hum of his gauntlet silenced by the heat. Zaku shielded his face, stumbling back, while Kin's smirk faltered, her bells useless in the roaring inferno pressing against her. Sasuke stepped forward, flames trailing from his every move, his voice shaking the air. "You'll never touch him." The flames around Sasuke pulsed like a heartbeat, and for the first time the sound trio flinched. Zaku tried to cover it with bravado, sneering through the heat. "Fire tricks won't save you, Uchiha." Sasuke was already there. He blurred forward, his body wreathed in crimson, and slammed into Zaku before the boy could fire a blast. The flames clung to his blade, turning steel into a brand. One strike split Zaku's arm open, the holes in his forearm melting shut with the smell of scorched flesh. Zaku's scream then choked as Sasuke rammed his sword through his chest, pinning him to the cave wall. The fire burned white-hot as Sasuke ripped the blade free. Zaku's body dissolved into ash and smoke, leaving nothing but silence and the stench of blood. Kin's eyes widened. Dosu hissed, his gauntlet trembling with frustrated vibrations. For the first time, they hesitated. Sakura stumbled to Sasuke's side, blade raised. Her movements were jerky, her balance off her burst eardrums left her fighting in silence, but her stance was unbroken. She jabbed at Kin, forcing the kunoichi back, while Sasuke turned on Dosu, crimson eyes locked onto him. 2 against 2. The cave rang with steel and sparks. Kin's bells clashed with Sakura's willow stance, illusions useless but her strikes still sharp. Dosu swung with bone-crushing force, but Sasuke's fiery resonance met him blow for blow, each strike hotter, faster, heavier. The cave floor split beneath their battle, dust swirling, the firelight dancing across broken walls. And in the back of the cave, unseen by all of them, Naruto's hand twitched. Fingers curled tight, the black marks on his skin pulsing as if alive. Naruto opened his eyes and saw nothing. Only black. A void without floor or ceiling, without air to breathe. Then her scream. His mother's voice, raw and breaking, cut through the silence like glass shattering. Naru. His legs moved before he could think. He was small again, his limbs short, his stride clumsy. He looked down 5 years old. A child running barefoot through endless dark. The scream drew him forward until light cracked through the black. He stumbled into it, and there she was, Kushina. Pinned, bleeding, her once bright hair matted with sweat and gore. Orochimaru crouched over her, his snake-like grin stretching too wide. With one hand, he carved lazy lines into her flesh. With the other, he stroked her cheek as though she were something precious. "You make the most appealing sounds," he hissed, as she gurgled, choking on her own blood. Naruto's vision went red. He didn't think. He grabbed the nearest sword that materialized in the void, the steel heavy in his tiny hands, and he screamed. The sound tore from his throat as he charged, swinging down with all the rage his small body could muster. But he never reached him. Another hand twisted, clawed, feral snatched the blade mid-swing. A shape rose from the black, monstrous and sharp-toothed, eyes glowing like pits of fire. Its grin split too wide, jaw hanging unnaturally. "You think you're strong enough, little cub," it growled, voice like stones grinding together. "You can't even protect your mother. You can't protect anyone." Naruto pulled at the sword, veins straining in his small arms, but the feral demon didn't move. Its claws tightened on the blade, dragging it away with ease. Orochimaru's laughter echoed all around them, layered with the demons, until Naruto couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. The feral demon lunged, claws ripping through the dark, but Naruto's hands tightened on the sword. His small body shifted without thought, feet planted, weight low, blade circling. The stance burned into him since childhood, the whirlpool. Even as a child, his movements carried the rhythm of endless drills, thousands of hours spent breaking wood and stone. The demon slashed, and Naruto slipped inside the strike, his blade flashing. One cut, then another, every swing setting up the next, flowing like a tide crashing against rock. The beast howled, stumbling back, black ichor spraying into the void. Naruto didn't stop. He pressed in, relentless, until the demon collapsed under the storm of steel. Its body dissolved into smoke, leaving nothing but the echo of its laughter. Naruto spun, chest heaving, and locked onto Orochimaru. The serpent's grin widened as he lifted his bloodied hand from Kushina's face. My. You really do have your mother's fire. Rage swallowed Naruto whole. He sprinted, blade flashing, voice breaking into a scream. She's not a toy, you bstrd, she's my mom. His strike carried every ounce of his soul, the blade glowing with heat, but Orochimaru barely moved. With one effortless sweep, his clawed hand batted Naruto aside. The impact sent him crashing into the void's wall, the black surface cracking like glass where his body struck. Pain lanced through his tiny frame, his sword tumbling from his grasp. Orochimaru's footsteps echoed, slow and deliberate, as he stalked forward. But toys break so easily. Naruto groaned, trying to rise, his small hands slipping on the broken surface. His body trembled, but his eyes burned hotter than ever. Naruto's body shook as the sound pierced the void, thin, weak, desperate. His baby sister. She cried somewhere behind Orochimaru, a tiny wail swallowed by the dark. Naruto scrambled to his feet, his little hands gripping the sword hilt until his knuckles bled. What are you doing? She's just a baby, he screamed, charging with everything he had. His blade cut the air, fury fueling his tiny legs. Orochimaru only laughed. That low, slithering laugh that made the void itself tremble. He turned his head, looked back at the swaddled infant, and in one fluid motion snuffed the sound out. The crying stopped. Naruto's scream split the dark as he stabbed forward, his sword glowing faintly with soul fire. The blade pierced Orochimaru's side, sinking deep. For a moment, he thought he'd done it. Then Orochimaru leaned in close, his golden eyes gleaming, his smile stretching like a serpent's maw. Oh. A wound for a wound, then. His knee slammed down, crushing Naruto to the cracked surface. The boy struggled, tiny fists pounding, but claws charged with seething demon energy dragged across his cheeks. 1 slash. 2. 3. The searing agony branded deep, burning into his skin, etching whisker marks that glowed red in the dark. Orochimaru's laughter rose above Naruto's screams, jagged and gleeful. And then light. The void cracked like shattered glass, a violent crash splitting the dark. A massive form burst through, white hair streaming, fury etched into his face. Jiraiya. Orochimaru. The serpent vanished in a blink, laughter trailing behind him like smoke. Silence fell, save for the broken sobs of a boy. Jiraiya dropped to his knees, gathering Naruto's trembling body into his arms. The sword clattered from tiny fingers as Naruto buried his face against the man's chest, the carved wounds still glowing. I'm so sorry, my boy, Jiraiya whispered, his voice breaking as he held him tighter. I should have been here. I should have. But Naruto only sobbed, shaking, as the marks seared themselves into his flesh. Naruto sobbed into Jiraiya's chest, his small body shaking, the carved whisker wounds searing with unnatural heat. Every breath felt like fire in his lungs. Then came the voice. Not gentle. Not patient. A venomous whisper dripping through the cracks in his mind. Need power? I have it. You are too weak. Naruto's eyes snapped open. He looked around, but Jiraiya didn't react. His mentor's voice still murmured soft apologies, but distant now, muted, like he was fading away. The whisper sharpened. You couldn't stop him. You couldn't save her. But I can give you strength. Real strength. Enough to carve the world apart before they ever touch you again. The void trembled as something appeared before him. A sphere of red energy, pulsing like a diseased heart, veins of black lightning crawling across its surface. It wasn't natural. It wasn't his. Jiraiya's arms tightened around him. "Stay with me, my boy. Don't let go." But the pain was unbearable. His sister's cries replayed in his skull, cut off mid-breath. His mother's lifeless face, Orochimaru's laugh echoing in the black. His tiny fists clenched until his nails dug bloody crescents into his palms. The orb pulsed closer, heat rolling off it like breath. Naruto reached out. The moment his fingers touched it, the orb dissolved into liquid fire. It surged into his skin, pouring through his veins, carving down his bones. His screams tore the void apart as the power branded him from the inside out. The whisker wounds flared, glowing red-hot, spreading black flame marks across his chest and arms. Jiraiya's voice grew frantic. "No, Naruto, stop. That's not." But it was too late. The poison Orochimaru left behind had unlocked something buried deep in his blood, something never meant to see the light. And the boy clung to it, sobbing, as the red glow pulsed under his skin like a second heartbeat. The clash in the cave raged on. Sasuke's flaming resonance burned hot but was faltering, every swing against Dosu's vibrating gauntlet rattling his bones. Sakura, deaf and bloodied, fought on sheer will alone, jabbing desperately to keep Kin's bells from finding their rhythm. Every second was survival, not victory. Then it came. A sound so low it was almost felt rather than heard, an animalistic growl that rolled through the cave walls, vibrating the stone beneath their feet. Everyone froze. Even Dosu's gauntlet fell silent. Kin's smirk faltered. What was that?" Another growl followed, sharper, louder. The fire crackled, shadows twisting unnaturally against the rock. And then they saw him. Naruto stood at the back of the cave, no longer writhing. In fever. A cloak of seething red energy writhed around his small frame, licking off him like living fire. His whisker marks glowed, carved into his cheeks like open wounds. His hands curled into claws, fingers elongated, tipped in shadowy talons. And his eyes. Blood red, glowing in the dark, pupils slit like a predator's. He didn't look human. He didn't look like the boy they had protected. He looked like the demons they were trained to kill. Sakura stumbled back a step, blade trembling. Even Sasuke, flame still burning around him, tightened his grip on his weapon. Dosu's voice cracked through the silence. "Orochimaru, what did you do to him?" Naruto growled again, and the red cloak surged outward, snapping the stone beneath his feet like it was paper. The cave erupted in screams. Naruto moved faster than anyone could track. One moment Kin was raising her bells, the next she was pinned to the stone wall, Naruto's clawed hand driven straight through her chest. Blood sprayed hot across his face as she coughed once, eyes wide with disbelief, then went limp. Before her body had even hit the floor, he was on Dosu. The bandaged boy barely had time to raise his gauntlet before Naruto's red cloak surged, claws ripping clean through the metal and into flesh. Dosu's scream echoed, cut short as Naruto slammed him into the ground again and again until the stone cracked and his body broke into silence. When it was over, Naruto stood drenched in their blood, the crimson liquid soaking into the cloak, hissing as it turned to smoke. His breath came in ragged growls, each exhale like a beast on the hunt. Then his head turned. Sasuke and Sakura froze. The cloak shimmered, writhing like flame, but beneath it, for a heartbeat, they saw his eyes flicker, not just predator's red, but recognition. Familiarity. "Naruto," Sakura whispered, though she couldn't even hear her own voice. Naruto's claws twitched. His lips curled back, teeth bared, the growl deepening. Recognition warred with rage, the cloak burning hotter, his form flickering like it couldn't decide what he was. Then he charged. The ground cracked under his first step, red light as Trkng the cave, his claws outstretched not at demons this time, but at them. Naruto charged, a blur of red fury. Sasuke lunged first, blade drawn, flames still clinging to him, but the clash was hopeless. Naruto's clawed hand swatted him aside, sending him skidding across the stone, ribs jolting from the impact. Sakura tried next. She threw herself between Naruto and Sasuke, her willow stance tight, blade raised. But the cloak lashed out before she could even swing, striking her chest and hurling her against the cave wall. She slid down, gasping, her sword clattering from her hand. The boy they'd sworn to protect was gone. What stood before them was a demon. Sasuke forced himself to his feet, vision blurred, body screaming with pain. Naruto loomed over him, claws dripping, eyes wild. The cloak hissed like fire on wet stone. Hopeless. But then. A flash. Sasuke's mind seized on a single memory, Naruto's quiet smile on the phone, the way his voice softened when he said her name. Rumi. The one thing that cut through all his walls. What about Rumi? Sasuke roared, voice cracking in desperation. Naruto froze mid-swing. His claws hovered inches from Sasuke's chest, trembling. The cloak writhed, uncertain, its glow faltering. Sasuke pressed on, heart pounding. She's waiting for you, isn't she? If you give in now you'll never see her again. Please. Stop. Calm down. Do it for Rumi. The red cloak flickered once, then sputtered like a dying flame. Naruto's claws curled into fists. His blood-red eyes flickered, predator's slits blurring into something human. And then it vanished. The cloak collapsed into smoke, leaving only a broken boy beneath it. Naruto fell to his knees, his hands clutching at the dirt. His chest heaved, blood and tears strkng his face, sobs tearing free from his throat. Sasuke stood trembling, his sword half raised but falling now, watching as Naruto crumbled under the weight of his own power. Naruto collapsed forward, his shoulders shaking, tears cutting tracks through the blood on his face. I'm a monster, he choked, his voice ragged and small. I killed them, I can't stop it, I'm just like them. He dug his claws into the dirt until they bled, curling in on himself as if he could make the world smaller. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then warmth. Sakura, bruised and bloodied, crawled across the stone until she was beside him. Her arms slid around his trembling frame, pulling him against her chest. She couldn't hear the words, but she saw his lips, saw his tears. And she held him tighter. Sasuke knelt on the other side, his blade forgotten, his flames gone. He laid one steadying hand on Naruto's back, then the other, leaning close until his forehead touched his teammate's shoulder. You're not a monster, he said, his voice low but fierce. You're one of us. Naruto sobbed harder, shaking in their arms. His hands clutched at their clothes like he was afraid they'd vanish. I don't want to be this, I don't. Sakura's grip tightened, her heartbeat steady against him. Sasuke's arms held him firm, grounding him in the storm of his own grief. And for the first time since the cloak had appeared, Naruto let himself cry like a child held not by fear, not by rage, but by the only two people who refused to let go of him. When the sobs finally ebbed, only silence remained, broken stone, smeared blood, and the smell of smoke still clinging to the air. Naruto's breathing slowed, his head bowed between them, eyes swollen but finally calm. Sakura wiped at her tears with the back of her sleeve, then shakily pushed herself up. She moved to the remains littering the floor, the shattered gauntlet Dosu had worn, Kin's blood-stained bells, and Zaku's proof still intact. Her hands trembled as she gathered them, but she pressed them into the pack alongside the other 3 they'd taken. 7 in total. Almost twice bare minimum to escape this hell. Sasuke slung the pack over his shoulder, then crouched again to help Naruto to his feet. The blonde boy swayed, still pale, his body marked by the fading black brands that smoldered faintly on his skin. Sakura steadied his other side, deaf but unflinching, and together they bore his weight. Step by step, the 3 of them stumbled out of the ruined cave and into the dawn light. They didn't speak, not of the blood, not of the cloaks or marks or what they had seen in each other's eyes. They only held on tighter, three battered forms moving as one, clinging to the fact that they were still alive. And when the forest's edge finally broke open before them, they did not look back. They broke through the last stretch of the hollow, stumbling into the checkpoint. The proctor's desk came into view, blurry through exhaustion, but real. Safety. Naruto's legs buckled first, and Sasuke caught him under the arm, his own steps dragging. Sakura leaned into both of them, her balance gone, blood still drying on her clothes. Together they moved like a single body held together by will alone. The silence of the clearing shattered as the attendants saw them. Medics. Now. Hands rushed forward, easing them down, prying the pack from Sasuke's shoulder. Proofs clattered onto the desk floor, just as required, but no one cared for the count. Healers swarmed, glowing salves and gauze flashing in practiced hands. "Whose team is this?" a voice barked. "Team 7, another replied. Then louder, "Get Kakashi." Naruto felt the tug of hands pulling him onto a stretcher, the cold press of ointment against his scorched skin. Sasuke's flame-scorched clothes were cut away, Sakura's bleeding chest bound in clean wraps. The chaos faded into muffled voices as exhaustion pressed down. For the first time in days, their bodies surrendered. Naruto's last sight before darkness claimed him was Sakura's hand twitching toward his, Sasuke's profile on the stretcher beside him, still and steady. He let his eyes close. And the world went quiet. Sasuke woke to pale light and the quiet sting of antiseptic. His body ached, ribs wrapped in bandages, but the first thing he saw was Kakashi slouched in a chair by their beds, his arms crossed, his single visible eye unreadable. Sasuke pushed himself upright, every muscle protesting, and staggered toward him. "Sensei." Kakashi tilted his head slowly. "You're awake." Sasuke's breath caught. He gripped Kakashi's arm, his voice sharp with desperation. "What happened in there?" Kakashi studied him in silence, then said softly, "That's what I should be asking you." The words broke something loose in Sasuke. He told him everything. The sound trio, Sakura bursting her eardrums to break their illusions, his own flames igniting in fury, and Naruto. How the cloak of red energy had swallowed him, how he'd killed without mercy, how he nearly turned on them. Kakashi didn't interrupt. His gaze never wavered. Sasuke's fists shook. And then he stopped. "Because I said Rumi's name." Kakashi leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice low. "You did well. Both of you. You brought him back. But you don't get it," Sasuke pressed. He wasn't just angry. Orochimaru was there. He bit him. Kakashi's head lifted sharply, his eye narrowing. "Bit him?" Sasuke nodded, his jaw tight. "Injected something." Black flame marks spread across his skin. It was eating him alive, like poison. But then that red cloak came. And it wasn't his. It couldn't have been. Kakashi's silence grew heavy, his voice grim when he finally spoke. "Orochimaru doesn't just bite. He marks. Corrupts. Twists. That's not just poison, it's a brand. A sea of demon energy. He's trying to claim Naruto. To make him his." Sasuke's stomach turned, memories flashing of Naruto's glowing eyes and claws dripping with blood, so what he became was Orochimaru's doing, Kakashi finished sharply. But Naruto fought it. He came back. That matters. For the first time, Kakashi reached out and gripped Sasuke's shoulder, steady. "What you saw was terrifying, yes. But don't confuse being cursed with being lost. He's still here. You kept him here." Sasuke swallowed, the memory of Naruto's broken sobs "I'm a monster" burning in his ears. His fists finally loosened, and he nodded. Kakashi leaned back, the weight of his sigh carrying decades. His voice was venom when he spoke again. "Orochimaru hasn't changed. He only leaves scars. The Hokage's office was quiet when Kakashi entered. Scrolls and papers were stacked neatly on the desk, but the old man himself sat back in his chair, pipe unlit, his lined face weary. He lifted his gaze as Kakashi knelt before him. "You don't kneel, Kakashi," Hiruzen said softly, setting the pipe aside. "Not unless it's serious." Kakashi rose halfway, his visible eye grim. "It's serious." The Hokage gestured. "Speak." Kakashi exhaled through his mask, arms crossing. Team 7 survived the hollow. But what they faced went far beyond what was intended. The sound trio attacked them genin, but already twisted. They weren't acting on their own. Orochimaru sent them. Hiruzen's brows furrowed, but he said nothing. He let the words hang. Kakashi's tone hardened. Orochimaru himself entered the hollow. He engaged Naruto. He bit him, injected him with something. At first, we thought it was poison, but the mark spread black flame streaks burned across his body. It wasn't poison. It was a brand. Hiruzen's hands folded tightly on the desk. His voice was measured, but heavy. So the rumors were true. Kakashi nodded. The boy lost control. His soul resonance twisted into something else. Something cloaked him in red energy, changed his body, his eyes. He killed Dosu and Kin without hesitation. He nearly attacked Sasuke and Sakura before they reached him. Hiruzen's face betrayed nothing, but his silence was sharper than anger. Kakashi's voice dropped. He's still Naruto. He came back. But the brand remains. Orochimaru's sea is inside him, and sooner or later, it will demand more. The old man finally leaned forward, the weight of his years pressing down like stone. We will double the watch on Orochimaru's movements. And Naruto? Kakashi's single eye closed, his voice carrying both pride and sorrow. He needs protection but also trust. If we treat him like a monster, he'll become one. If we stand with him, he might survive this. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Hiruzen sighed, ancient and tired. Orochimaru, his voice cracked with bitterness. He only leaves scars. Kakashi's voice was flat, but every word hit like a hammer. Team 7 survived the hollow. But Orochimaru himself entered. He fought Naruto. Bit him. Branded him. The boy's body erupted with black flame marks, demon essence spreading like fire in his veins. And then he lost control. Hiruzen's pipe clattered from his fingers. His old voice was quiet, but sharp as a blade. Summon the council. The chamber filled within the hour. Clan heads, veteran hunters, and senior advisors filled the round table, murmurs bouncing like echoes in a crypt. They all stilled when Hiruzen raised his hand. Kakashi stood in the center, mask hiding his face but not the weight in his eye. He told them everything. The sound trio, twisted into half-demons. Sakura deafening herself to save her team. Sasuke's eyes igniting with soul resonance. And Naruto, how Orochimaru marked him, how a red cloak of living energy devoured him, how he slaughtered without mercy and nearly turned on his own. When Kakashi fell silent, the chamber erupted. Shikaku Nara rubbed at his temple, his voice sharp with exhaustion. Troublesome doesn't begin to cover it. Orochimaru carving his mark into a recruit is bad enough. But what Kakashi described, that wasn't ordinary resonance. That was full resonance. The kind only seasoned hunters awaken to. He's 15. If he can already wield that kind of power, we're one mistake away from losing control of a living hurricane. Inoichi Yamanaka leaned forward, voice grim. If that brand corrodes his mind, no tether will hold. Hunters who reach full resonance can already level squads. If his breaks in battle, we won't contain him. Choza Akimichi slammed his palm against the table, rattling cups. Enough of this talk. He's Minato's boy. Kushina's too. Minato carved down A-class demons before he could even shave, and Kushina's sealing songs chained horrors older than this core. That bloodline was always meant for greatness. If we cast the boy aside, we spit on their sacrifice. Hayashi Hyuga's pale eyes flickered. His voice was clipped, precise. And if that greatness burns us? The Uzumaki line has always been volatile. With Orochimaru's corruption stirring his veins, he could become more demon than hunter. Do not forget he already wields storms and lightning like an executioner. That isn't the strength of a recruit. That's the strength of something unnatural. A rumble of agreement and dissent shook the room. Then Danzo's voice rasped through, gravel and venom. You're all blind. He's no boy anymore, he's a vessel. Orochimaru has claimed him, and if the Hokage will not leash him, Root will. Better a weapon under control than a beast running free. Kakashi's hand twitched toward his blade, his voice sharp as a kunai's edge. Lay a hand on him, and I'll cut you down myself. Gasps broke out. Shikaku's gaze was steady, thoughtful. Minato trusted us with his son. Don't forget, Naruto isn't the only hunter with demon BLD. Rumi bears it too. We accepted her because of Selene. Why is this any different? The name Selene fell heavy across the chamber, silencing murmurs. Everyone remembered. Chosa's voice rumbled, steady as stone. We accepted her because she fights for us, not against us. Naruto has done the same. He's already slain more demons than some hunters twice his age. If bloodlines damn children, half this room wouldn't be here. Even Hayashi said nothing more. Finally, Hiruzen rose. His voice, old but immovable, filled the chamber. He is Minato and Kushina's son. He is under my protection. Orochimaru's brand is dangerous, yes, but it does not define him. He is a hunter of this core. He will not be abandoned. Danzo's single eye glimmered, but he did not speak. Council dismissed, Hiruzen ordered. Kakashi, remain. The doors closed with a boom, leaving the old man and the jonin alone in the silence. The great chamber emptied, the echo of boots and muttering voices fading until the heavy doors boomed shut. Only Hiruzen remained at the head of the table, and Kakashi standing below. The Hokage rubbed his temples, his pipe long forgotten. For a moment, he looked every bit his age. Then his weary eyes lifted to Kakashi. Does Jiraiya know? Kakashi's single eye flicked downward. Not yet. He hasn't returned from his patrols in the north. If he knew Orochimaru branded Minato's son, he'd already be storming the hollow himself. Hiruzen nodded, slow, grave. And Selene? Does she know what's been done to the boy she helped raise? Kakashi hesitated. No. Not yet. She'll hear it from Naruto first, or she'll hear it from me. Not from rumors on the street. His eye hardened. She's the closest thing he has to a mother. If she feels we hid this from her, we lose her trust, Hiruzen finished, his voice heavy. For a long time, neither spoke. The old man stared at the cold lamps above them, the shadows lengthening across the floor. Finally, Hiruzen sighed. Jiraiya must be told. And Selene too. Secrets corrode faster than Orochimaru's marks. But Kakashi, his gaze fixed sharp on the jonin. When you speak to them, do so carefully. They will both want BLD. Kakashi inclined his head. They won't want it half as much as I do. The Hokage leaned back, closing his eyes, the weight of memory thick in his voice. Minato. Kushina. Jiraiya. Selene. All of them, their lives are woven into that boy. If he falls, he won't be the only one. The silence between them was absolute. The northern winds cut sharp across the mountains as Jiraiya stood watch, his broad frame wrapped in a traveling cloak, eyes scanning the horizon for demon spoor. Around him, hunters from the frontier corps checked weapons, cleaned blades, and tightened armor straps. The crack of wings split the air. A hawk descended, leather scroll case strapped to its leg. One of the hunters reached for it, but Jiraiya was already there, untying the message with steady hands. The hawk's message trembled in Jiraiya's grip as he read it again, each word a nail driven deeper into his chest. Orochimaru. Brand. Black flame marks. Red cloak. By the time he finished, the parchment was nothing but a crumpled ball in his fist. His hand shook not with fear, but with rage. The head hunter stepped closer, wary. Bad news? Jiraiya's head lifted, and the fury in his eyes made the man flinch. Naruto. My godson. He needs me. The hunter hesitated. Your patrol. DMN the patrol. Jiraiya's voice cracked the air like a WHP. He shoved the message into his cloak, fists tight at his sides. His massive scroll shifted on his back as he squared his shoulders, every inch of him bristling with murderous intent. He stared south, toward the leaf, toward the boy who carried Minato's smile and Kushina's fire. His teeth ground together. Orochimaru, the name hissed out like poison. His hands clenched until his knuckles whitened. You've gone too far this time. His fury was palpable, a storm gathering under his skin. He turned, striding toward the stables. The other hunters moved aside instinctively, sensing the weight of his wrath. Leaf or hell itself, he muttered, eyes burning, I'll find him. And if Orochimaru thinks he can take Naruto from me, he's already signed his death warrant. The hawk shrieked overhead as if echoing his vow, and Jiraiya mounted up, vanishing down the stormbound road toward Konoha. The courtyard echoed with Selene's clipped commands. Step. Turn. Hold the note. Again. Mira stumbled, Zoe's energy carried her too far, and even Rumi's voice wavered as if her heart wasn't in the song. Before Selene could correct them, the shadow of wings cut across the tiles. A hawk swooped down, talons striking the wooden railing as it landed. Tied to its leg was a sealed note. Selene's sharp eyes narrowed. She crossed the courtyard, untied the parchment, and read it quickly. Her face hardened, the muscles of her jaw tight. The girls stopped, watching her curiously. Selene? Zoe asked, bouncing in place. Bad news? Selene folded the note carefully, masking the fury that simmered beneath. She turned to them with her usual strict calm, though her voice carried a subtle weight. Training is suspended for 1 week. Rest your bodies, clear your minds. Mira blinked. Suspended? Just like that? Yes, Selene said firmly. Take it as a gift. But don't squander it. Zoe pouted dramatically but perked up quickly. A whole week? Sweet. Finally, I can. Don't waste it, Selene snapped, her voice like steel. That ended the questions. As the girls muttered between themselves, Selene slipped the folded note into her sleeve. Her decision was already made. She would leave for the leaf at once. She didn't tell them the truth that Naruto had been touched by Orochimaru's corruption, that the council in Konoha was already in upheaval, that a storm was building around them all. Instead, she simply turned away, her tone final. I'll be gone for a short time. Focus on yourselves until I return. And without another word, she walked off, the hawk circling overhead as if carrying her fury skyward. As the girls went back to their stretching drills, Selene slipped out through the side gate, the folded note crinkling in her palm. She didn't need to read it again, the words were already carved into her heart. Orochimaru. Demon taint. Naruto. Her driver was already waiting, the black limo gleaming under the late afternoon light. He opened the door without a word, sensing her urgency. Selene slid inside, her reflection catching in the tinted glass. For a moment, she didn't see the woman she had become. She saw a little boy, sitting at her kitchen table, swinging his legs and squinting at a book. Selene what's hose pita? His tongue tangled over the word, and when she gently corrected him, he had beamed like he'd conquered the world. That boy had cried himself hoarse in her arms once, shaking so hard she feared his little body might break apart. The sound still haunted her. That raw, broken cry of a child who had lost everything. She had sworn then she would protect him. Her fingers tightened into a fist against her knee. Not again, she whispered, her voice sharp in the still air of the limo. Orochimaru. You've gone too far. The limo lurched forward, the city lights strkng across the windows as they sped toward the leaf. Celine's eyes burned, not with grief but with fury and with the unshakable vow of a woman who refused to let her boy be broken again. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 5. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Slygold on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.